Blog Talk Radio.
Walk into this room at your own risk, because it leads to the future. Not a future that will be, but one that might be. This is not a new world. It is simply an extension of what began in the old one. It has patterned itself after every dictator who has ever planted the ripping imprint of a boot on the pages of history since the beginning of time. It has refinements, technological advances, and a more sophisticated approach the destruction of human freedom. But like every one of the super-states that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
I appeared before the Congressional Committee to tell what I knew of activities which I believe might lead to an attempt to set up a fascist dictatorship.
A part of that plan, of course, is to induce the gradual surrender of American sovereignty, piece by piece and step by step, to various international organizations, of which the United Nations is the outstanding but far from the only example. The consequent willingness of the American people to allow the steps of appeasement by our government, which amount to a piecemeal surrender of the rest of the free world and of the United States itself.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision the UN standard.
I had planned another closing message, but I feel compelled to say what I'm about to say. Now, I risk sounding like a conspiracy theorist, but it's no longer a theory. What I'm about to say is fact. The secret organizations of the world power elite are no longer secret. They have planned and are now leading us into a one-world communist government.
On the outskirts of the national capital today, black limousines with darkened windows converged on a hotel where private security guards imposed ironclad control. The limos carried royalty, political power brokers, and industrial titans to a secret meeting that will last all weekend. It's known as the Bilderberg Group. Could their objectives...
Let's talk to Will in Arizona. Thanks for holding her on the air.
First off, I am a Prison TV Planet member.
Awesome, brother. Go ahead and into your points, and I'll hold you over if need be.
If you really want to have an unabridged idea of what is going on today, look at it's actually a YouTube video, but it's a documentary. Adolf Hitler, the greatest story never told. He actually kicked out a lot of the bankers because they were trying to implode Germany after World War I. And it was the bankers. And when I was watching that, it was 5 hours long, and I started listening and saying to myself, wait a minute, they are just repeating history, but because we are so dumbed down in the sense of our historical knowledge.
Well, I haven't seen the documentary you're talking about, but people can, I guess, check it out for themselves.
The very well-made, excellent, and moving documentary called Adolf Hitler, the Greatest Story Never Told. I want you to do something for me as well, and I would really appreciate it. Before you listen to this interview, I want you to watch the documentary. I know you want to listen to this program right away, but if you haven't already seen it, I want you to stop this program right now and go watch the documentary first. And I'm adamant about watching the documentary because one of the biggest hurdles that the majority of people seem to have, they're basically just kind of set in their ways, and they argue that they already know everything that they need to know concerning this topic. Well, I can promise you, people, you don't know 1/10 of it.
I seriously had a panic attack after I watched that documentary, The Greatest Story Never Told. And for days afterward, I was really shook up. It had such a profound impact on me, and everything started making so much sense, and I felt so... I mean, I've always felt kind of betrayed by the powers that be, but I felt more betrayed than ever. And I started looking back on my entire life and looking back at all the movies that I'd seen.
I just couldn't believe it. I thought if they could pull off this, then anything is possible. Anything.
Yeah.
You know, and that one, you know, I would encourage anybody watching this or listening to this to watch that hasn't seen that documentary to watch it and go back
with an open mind.
And listen to that interview that you did with Dennis Wise recently.
But that's most likely what got us censored from iTunes, by the way, too, that show.
Yeah, well...
That shows what we're not allowed to talk about. It's just it's off limits, you know?
And that's when I was going through that sort of panic attack realization, that was it. That was the big red flag. I was like, oh my God, like of course we're not being told the truth because we're not allowed to talk about this issue. When you're not allowed to talk about something, then that's like the red flag right there. If it's off limits, then that's the thing you need to talk about the most.
And the rule to remember is that history is written by the winner.
I can promise you, people, you don't know 1/10 of it.
50, when the Jews got all the political rights in Germany, the German right, they have done three things which are really dramatic. Number one, they were a small minority of 2% of the population. At the time when Hitler came to power, 500,000 within 60 million German people. 500,000 among 60 million. They were a small minority. This small minority managed to control about 50% of the media, to give about 70% of all judges, to have a tremendous influence in movie and in theater and in literature. They were overrepresented. This is one thing. They were absolutely overrepresented as today in England, in France, and in the United States. Second, Jews were at the origin of a lot of catastrophic financial bank crashes in Germany between 1870 and 1920. In that time, they made a lot of crashes which this is all documented. It's not Nazi propaganda or anti-Semitic or Arab propaganda. It's a lot of books have been published, even by Jewish Germans, about this problem. They have millions of German fathers have lost their incomes, their fortune, their savings because of these Jewish gangsters, bank gangsters and speculation people. Then the third point, which was psychologically the most dangerous of all, they have introduced into German art and culture and theater and movie decadence, immorality. The first homosexual theaters, plays, were made in Berlin in the 1920s. The first adultery theater plays were made in the 1880s and 1890s, 100 years ago, by Jewish authors. Adultery, then sexual perversions of all sorts, sadism, masochism, a lot of homosexuality, all these things, and then decadent art, an art which is absolutely ridiculous, so-called modern art. It was all pushed by Jewish intellectuals, and this created among the German people a big revolt. And they wrote books ridiculing Christianity, ridiculing Jesus. I mean, it was something like Salman Rushdie with the Muslims. And there were furious reactions in Germany. And this is why Adolf Hitler came to power. And you see then Hitler in 2 years, from 33 to 35, he got 6 million Germans were unemployed. And within 2 years, he brought 6 million unemployed Germans back into their jobs. He created 6 million jobs.
All right, there you go. You won't hear that in your social studies class in high school. Let me tell you that. You know, you're damn right. The ADL's going to attack me. They're going to slander me. Well, you know, I'm going to speak the truth, though. I'm going to come after you, okay? And I'm going to tell the truth. And I don't care what anybody says, because these are facts. You can look them up. All you have to do is don't be lazy and do your own research and understand what's going on. I'm not saying anybody has to hate Jewish people. I'm not saying you have to hate anybody. Okay? That whatever you decide you want to do is what you decide you want to do. I don't recommend hating anybody. Okay? I recommend in educating everybody. All right? That's what I recommend you do. And that's the problem that we have today, is like they said in the beginning, and that first clip there, is people are too dumbed down and they're morally bankrupt. But I got Mike on the line here. Let me bring Mike on. It's been a long time since he's been on the podcast. Let me bring him on here real quick. I think this is his number right here. And bring him on. And what's going on there, buddy?
Hey, Joseph, can you hear me all right? You know I have bad connection here where I'm at. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
You go in and out because of where I'm located. It's just in and out. Bad connection.
Yeah, I can see where you. Yeah, that time you went in and out, but I can hear you pretty good. Go ahead. What's going on with the Righteous Army?
Yeah, let me pick up. My first thing to add a point. There's more.
Nope, I'm losing you, Mike. I'm losing you. You're fading out on me. You're fading out.
Walk outside.
All right. These cell phones. You think that with the technology we have today, it's like they do this crap on purpose, I think. You know, there's no reason why we can't have one cell phone works better than the other, and this tower hits this tower, and, you know, it's all supposed to be on a 5G network now anyway. You know, I just don't understand why these...
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I can hear you now. I can hear me now. Can you hear me now? Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to bring someone in if I can three-way. Hold on a second. He's calling me now.
All right, that's fine. I'm going to connect Tave's one. Tave's waiting, too, so I'm going to connect him in there. Go ahead there, Mr. Tave. I think that's you, 330.
Good evening. Mr. Mike, how are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm confused. Hold you.
Yeah.
Mike, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I just patched you in. I'm actually on the blog talk radio show with Joseph Gibson. The guy was running the show for the people.
Your phone is breaking up bad, Mike.
Man, his phone's bad, ain't it?
Terrible.
Damn.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's in the Matrix.
Yeah.
It just sounds like Donald Duck.
Phone Jello.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, Mike. Yeah, Mike and
Nope.
Because I'm in the show right now live with Joseph Gibbs. Just so you know.
Okay. Well, I was just returning your call. Maybe there's a more appropriate time.
No, I actually called you earlier to see if you'd be cool with joining in on the show tonight for a few minutes.
Okay.
With you, I'm kind of surprised you, but are you willing to spend some minutes with us here?
Well, I'm just sitting down. I just came in. I was just getting comfortable.
Okay, so if you guys hopefully can hear me.
Yeah.
I can hear the
Joe,
other guy.
let me know if I go out. Joe, let me know if I go out, okay? Because I've got a really important special person on the phone.
You sound good now.
What?
You sound good now.
Yeah, hold your head right there. Don't turn your head. Just keep it right there.
I have a really important special person. I have a really important special person on the phone. His name's Mike.
Okay.
I won't say his last name. He can say if he wants. Out in Colorado. And just so you know, Joe, I'll let him discuss it. But he was recently. In fact, let me let you tell the story that you told me the other day, Mike, about them kind of forcing you into a conversation with Sandy Hierarchy?
Yeah. I just say she's got her hands tied because of who she is, and she took a vow or promise, whatever you want to call it, with the Air Force. I'm impressed that she was like the fifth woman to get a pilot's license for the Air Force. That's remarkable, but because her degree is in particle physics or plasma physics, she's got her hands tied. She can't talk about certain things. But I was alerted. Of course, I knew it was happening. Was that she was planted on me just to figure out what I was doing. So I don't know. They plant people in the Patriots groups to as instigators to disrupt and maybe get people arrested or something. So I'm not sure that's the case with Sandy, but all of the marks are there that indicate that that's possible.
And let me give a little segue from Mike here as well, because Mike is. We all have our gifts, right? My son is digesting law and common law and U.S. codes, and he's doing mind-blowing on it. He's a researcher and a reader. I'm more of a music-minded guy, and I'm all about just pushing the truth, and no matter what it is, and speaking openly about things. Mike is a science mind. He's got a very rational and analytical mind, and he's all about facts and figures and numbers and percentages and how things work. How health works, how electronics work, how free energy works. He's fully familiar with Nikola Tesla's work.
Hey, whoever's got
Nikola
noise
Tesla
in the background, whoever's moving dishes or doing whatever the heck they're doing, you're disrupting this call. So whoever's got the noise, go ahead, Mike.
So a big part of Mike in this puzzle is he's a man of God, he's a man of truth, and he's all about what's right in this world and having the reality that we all deserve and are entitled to free energy. And energy is a big part of the problem, as Mike would probably put it, and I'll let him speak for himself. The oil companies are the big problem. Now we can talk about, before you called, Mike, Joseph did a little segue introduction again about the greatest story never told and the things we were talking about the other day regarding how they fabricated history and the truth about Hitler and World War I and World War II and the banksters and all of that. And I was just bringing up with Joe before you called me, Mike, that I wanted to add to that there's really what I've uncovered as what I call the Jew psyop, because they're even using this Jew thing. Even if you try to approach it as, it's the bankers and it's the Jews, and, we're not telling you to hate Jews, but it's the Jews. It's a divisive strategy, because as Mike knows and I know and we all know, Revelation 2:9-39 says they're not Jews. They're not even Jews. It's a Jew psyop because a Jew is only a word that's been around for a few hundred years that's used to denote ancient scripture texts that are referring to either somebody from the tribe of Judah, from whence came Yahushua, or somebody who was from the land of Judea, who could have been anybody. Could have been a Negro, an Asian, an Indian, or anybody. If they were from the land of Judea, they were referred to as a name that's translated into Jew. So they've created literally a religion over the last couple thousand years that they call Judaism, to make it out as if that is God's religion. And look at all the Christians who think, the Jews are God's chosen people. The current modern day, what we call Jews, are not even Jews. They're the Revelation 2:9-39 Jews. They are Edomites. They are the biblical thy seed against her seed. All right. They are the bad bloodline, and they have literally taken on the name Jew. It does come from Judah, and they have literally hijacked the tribe of Judah, because that's the tribe from whence came Yahushua, the man that we refer to as Jesus Christ in the mainstream Christian churches. Yahushua, Son of God in the flesh. That man who was here came through the tribe of Judah, which was all a pure bloodline from Adam down to Abraham, down to David, all the way down to Yahushua, and that's why he was referred to as the second Adam. So there are descendants that come down to this very day that are literally the tribe of Israel that hail back from ancient days. And that's why we hear so much about there's a war against whites. There's a war against whites. It's because those who call themselves Jews but are not are trying to destroy the white, Caucasian, Anglo-Aryan, Saxon peoples because they are the ones that hail directly from that bloodline. And
we're the true Israelites, aren't we, Mike? We're the true Israelites.
That's right. Well, yes.
Yeah,
but
Americans have more Hebrew blood than what's in Israel.
Right. The Ashkenazis,
right.
They're what, 90% Mongolian Turk.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this, Mike. Mike. Hang on. Let me ask you this. Back to the Sandy thing, real quick. Are you saying that Sandy is an implant into the Patriot community? That she was put into she could be? I'm not saying that she definitely is, but she may
That's
be.
a possibility. I can't say that for sure. That's a possibility, but she has her hands tied. She can't talk about certain things because she took an oath, and she's a perfect type of person that would fit in and be able to, get information. So that was her big goal, is to find out who all the Patriots were, or Patriots or whatever. Yeah.
And she's been on my podcast several times.
I'll add to that because
she's been on my podcast.
Joseph, we've discussed this at length, as you know. The so-called Republic of the United States of America abandoned Joe and his show. They contacted me because of my efforts a year and a half ago. And when I began to look into their strategies and what they're doing, Joe did a show where I outlined 5 specific things where it became crystal clear that they are a controlled opposition group. And what really supports that more than anything is that Joseph knows firsthand that back in the 2010-2011 era, there was a movement of patriots that were moving forward to try to restore the republic, and it was infiltrated and hijacked where the president ended up in jail. All kinds of people were mysteriously dying. People were running scared, and it fell apart. But yet it's still around. Why is it still around? Because it was infiltrated and hijacked with a narrative that they want to control. And that controlled narrative is a top-down government-type system. Yes. So,
Joe,
that's why every time
that guy was
analytical. That was perfect, That was perfect, Mike. How you analyzed that and how you came about onto the podcast and actually saved me from the. I mean, I wasn't going to do anything stupid with them, but I was from the beginning in the Restore America plan. The beginning, I sat down with Ron Paul and the original president of the republic, and when Mike's telling the truth, we were going to restore this republic, but it fell apart. The Obama administration was deeply infiltrated. Crazy stuff happened.
Joe, we just had him talking with us, maybe a month ago, and I told you, I said, I don't understand how that guy can talk about restoring this republic, because this is the same guy that was talking about it then, is still talking about it now, and he needs a campaign manager, and he needs to get into the government. Wait a minute. I said to Joe, I go, are we trying to go away from that? Aren't we trying to do something different, not get involved with what's already established? That's the problem. And Joe, that's the same guy we're talking about, isn't it, Joe?
It's one of them. It's not. He's not the main player, though. The main player. I'm talking about President Geiger and them, and the governor of the governor of Jim Carpenter that was on the show. They would come on my show every single week and do a show and reach out and pull everybody, all the patriots that I knew. The militia, everybody. The Michigan guys that got arrested there with the governor's kidnapping thing, they were on my show. Mysteriously, they got arrested and set up. Hopefully, hopefully I didn't play a hand in that, but they were all coming on my show. Barry Croft and them, and he was a friend of mine.
So, are we saying that these guys are hands-on? These are the guys that that have basically set up January 6th and had these guys locked up because they wanted to see who was going to show their face and make names, or
it wasn't January.
Something like that.
I don't know if they were. I don't know if they had their hand in that or not, but they were definitely coming on podcasts in my show.
This Sandy lady, where is she from? Is she from Ohio?
She's from Colorado.
Colorado. Okay.
Well, no, no. She was. She moved to Colorado, and she did the Air Force Base in Colorado Springs. But yeah, I think she's from Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Mike,
She
that is
grew up in
exactly the
Ohio.
lady I was telling you about. That was when we were talking about the militia back when we first started talking. She's the one that kept sending me the messages when she saw my truck. When I had all the stuff on the side of it.
I seen your private caller. I got a private caller with their hand up too, so I'm gonna connect them and see who this is.
Okay.
Go ahead, there, private caller.
Well.
Yeah, what's going on, Joe? What's going on, Dave? You know who
okay.
it is.
What's happening, buddy? How you doing?
Yeah, all right. I'm doing all right. Now, I know, Joe, that you are a theologian and you guys, have a lot of knowledge on that. Okay, but why does it say in the scripture that he had the hair of lamb's wool, his eyes was red as a flame, and his skin was that of burnt brass?
Well, do you know what the definition of what Adam means? You know that Adam is how he blushes. You know that they talk about Adam and the skin. He blushes. There's only one race of people that can actually blush.
He's ruddy. Ruddy. It says ruddy. That means he's red. Red. Skin was red. That's what it says. That's what it means. So, but anyway, Mike, you want to give us answer to that?
Yeah, let Mike get on that.
Yeah, well, ironically, today I was on a Zoom meeting, and since I've been trying to keep my health up, I've been getting a little sun, and I was on a Zoom meeting earlier with a friend of mine, video call. We were working on a guitar piece together. He was helping me to work out the solo that's in the Beatles song In My Life, so I could play it on the guitar. And I looked at myself, and I had this, brass look to myself, literally. I was like, man, I said, I look funny in the camera. I almost look like golden, like red, like a reddish golden look, because I'm a white person, and if I'm not in the skin, if I'm not in the sun, I'm really kind of white, but when I get like a bronzish kind of tan, it really comes across that way. It's kind of a reddish bronze look. And look, I'll tell you, Yahushua, there are multiple descriptions of him from the governor at the time, Pontius Pilate, his assistant. There's 4 governmental accounts where he was a man with golden brown hair and blue eyes, light golden brown hair and blue eyes. And the simple fact of the matter is, the biblical Israelites went through the Caucasus Mountains. That's why the white people have the name Caucasian, because Israelites went up through the Caucasus Mountains. And I know there's a movement with blacks, God bless them, where they're declaring that they're the Israelites. That's absolutely not true. There's no biblical basis for that. There's no historical basis for that. The simple fact of the matter is there were tribes on this planet well before Adam and Eve were put here. Adam and Eve were put here to rule the garden, meaning to rule this world and to rule all the different tribes that were on the earth. And that particular heritage that came directly from Adam and Eve was what we would call, Saxon, Celtic, Anglo-Saxon, those that have a great diversity in their appearance. They have blonde hair, brown hair, black hair, curly hair, straight hair, blue eyes, green eyes, brown eyes, hazel eyes.
Now, where is this documented, Mike? Where is this documented? I've had pastors and
it's documented, like
on this
Dave
podcast.
just said. It's documented right off the bat with his name, like Dave said. Adam means ruddish, which is like to blush, which only white people do. The white blush in the face. It's also documented when you look in the original text. But you got to remember that there's a lot of sources, right? We have to search for truth in multiple sources, and we have to put the pieces together. The mainstream Christian religion, 501c3 churches, are absolutely controlled by those that are referred to as the Jews, that own the Fed and the bank. And they're not Jews, but that's the Jew psyop. But they have their hand on everything, in our government, in the Fed, in the world banks, in the churches. So the vast majority of Christians are deceived. The Bible even says the vast majority of Christians are going to be deceived, that only a few of them will make it. And many will come to me and say, Lord, Lord, well, I've done all these great things in your name, and depart from me, I never knew you, you worker of sin. So what it comes down to is a real truth seeker, a person who's honest at heart and soul, who loves and seeks the truth in God. It will be shown unto them. But only God determines that, because God knows the heart. But there's a lot of confusion because, quote unquote, Satan is the father of confusion. He's the father of lies. So there are people that are going in all kinds of directions. They're confused on all kinds of things. And it's especially true within the mainstream Christian religion churches.
Okay.
Well, what about now? All right, go ahead, Shabbat.
Okay.
And then I got to ask him a question about the right
Okay.
song. Go ahead.
Now, let me ask you this. Okay, now in the scripture it says he has the skin of burnt brass, his eyes red as a flame, and he has the hair of lamb's wool. And there's only one group of people on this planet that has lamb's wool, commonly referred to as naturals or afros or what have you, as it was when I was coming up as a kid, in the late 1960s. But then,
damn, you're old.
Oh yeah, I'm old, man. I'm old. So don't laugh, Sonny. You live
I will tell you
old too.
I will tell you this:
50,
the lamb's wool reference is relative to the whiteness, not the texture. The whiteness of the white as a lamb's wool. And
oh boy!
My grandfather, my grandfather has not gold hair or silver hair. He has white hair. My father has white hair.
Okay, what they would call a platinum blonde, if I'm correct.
I don't think it really matters. It's just we're all brothers, right? And nobody. When John the Revelator was being shown by the angel what God's kingdom is here on earth, he thought, an angel, so he bowed down, and the angel told him, no, don't let anybody see you doing that. Get up. He says, I'm not your superior, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're all brothers.
That's a good point.
Right.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Anyway, I don't think
we
that's
all have
something
to understand
to really
there's
focus
a group
on.
of
Maybe
people
that's
that actually,
interesting, but we shouldn't dwell on that.
Right.
No, but we
Except
all
that Jesus
understand
did
that there's
say,
one group of
Yahushua did say,
that
I come but
agenda.
only for the lost sheep of Israel. So, because again, he was the second Adam, and he came to be an example unto his people who are supposed to live in accordance with his way. But again, many have fallen into the ways of the Edomites and the Canaanites and the immoral reality, which is why our nation has judgment coming upon it, because it's gone perverse.
Okay, well,
so just because you're white doesn't mean you're an Israelite. There's plenty of people that are white or Caucasian that are not Israelites.
Okay, now there's a good friend of mine.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Well, also it's like the seed of Abraham. Well, it turned out that they thought, whoa, that's going to be all these people, and then Jesus said, no, it said singular, seed, plural, and he said, I'm the seed. So it's anyway. The analogy there is that it's. There's a lot of confusion of people trying to do this identity issue and say, well, I'm the chosen because I got the DNA or whatever. No.
Actually, Mike, I would say there's truth to that, but that doesn't negate anybody else from being able to be, in God's kingdom. There will be multitudes
nobody. We have to understand too, though, when they say that they're God's chosen people, we have to understand is a Christian or a decent person believing that their God isn't our God. They're not talking about Yeshua or Yahweh. They are talking about Lucifer, Baal, Marduk, whatever you want to call them. They are in a Luciferian belief, and that's the problem. People don't realize that Christianity is formed from Judaism. Judaism's been around a lot longer than Christianity or Catholicism, but the problem with it is they want you to believe in paganism so that our God says, put no other God before me, no idol worshiping, but yet when we worship a Christmas tree, we hang a wreath.
You should see this statue this guy sent me. He was on the show. Hopefully he calls in here tonight. He sent me a picture of a statue that was sent to the man. Oh man, it looks like freaking Satan, man.
It's a lion. It's a griffin with wings, and it's got a lion's head. It's got bear feet. It's an abomination.
That's in front of the. I think he said the UN. Yeah, that's what he said.
Joseph, I got a question.
Hang on.
One more thing. I was just going to finish up with one more thing. We have to understand that these people believe in a religion where they want Shabaka, they want your people dead, they want Dave, Mike, Joe, they want all of us dead. All of us are goyim to them. We are not even cattle. We are below that. So anybody that wants another race dead like that, we got a problem with them. That's my problem with them.
Right.
I wanted to first I want to say Dave made an outstanding point there, because again, to the black brothers on the phone, to anybody else, and most black people I know even will acknowledge, they say, yeah, man, they're after the white people now. They're trying to, shame them and destroy that race and that culture. But they've done that. They exploited the black people. They've exploited the Asian people, and they're definitely out now to destroy and utterly obliterate the white race. That's a fact. You can see it. Even whether it's literally through wars, which they did with World War I and World War II, of 100 million Aryan white men were murdered, killed in World War I and World War II.
Let me
hold on.
People hate everybody. They want people dead.
I just wanted to say.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, when Jesus was asked that question, when he was addressed with that issue, he says, well, who are my mother and my brothers? And he said, it's those who do God's will, period. It's not your color, your skin, and all that. It's those that do God's will. So all the rest of it is just a bunch of wasted time.
Right, but the problem with that, Mike, is to talk about...
All right, let Chewbacca ask these questions. I want to ask Mike a direct question
He was referring to those in the tribes of Israel to begin with, because there are those that do his will and those that don't. And those that do his will...
Yeah, but it was finished when he was born. It was finished. It's no longer any kind of lineage thing or what color you are. It's just, he said, those who do God's will, they are my mother and my brother and my sister.
But he came only for his skin. Right, but Yahushua came only for the lost sheep of Israel. That's who he came for, period. He said it. He said he came only for them, and he's referring to them. That's where a lot of things are taken out of context.
Hang on. He did, in the book of Matthew, yes, he directed to those people at that time, but then when they rejected him, then he went to the Gentiles, okay? You have to understand the dispensations of the Bible, okay? One comma could separate 1,000 years in the Bible. So, but Chewbacca, you got a comment you want to make here? I know you've been over there.
That's another word that's mistranslated.
Let Chewbacca answer. Let Chewbacca go, please. Go ahead, Chewbacca. I know you've been talked over. Go ahead.
The question that I have, when you look at over there in Italy, the Vatican and what have you, right? Why is it that a lot of these priests, were pedophiles and homosexuals, number one?
Yeah.
Second of all, and excuse the expression I'm about to use, but I've seen statues, and all the research that I do for the podcast, general knowledge and what have you. Excuse what I'm about to say, but this is something that I saw. Of a statue somewhere, over there in Southern Europe or in the Middle East, is where it's a little boy going down on a clergyman, if you catch what I mean. You know what I'm saying?
That's
now, what's
Judaism.
Up with that?
That is the Judaism.
See, that's sickening. And then on top of that, it's an act wrong within itself. Now, we're not going to talk about what I generally talk about in regard to the black experienced enhanced, Also, too, Joe, I got another question to ask you, man. Have you ever been having problems with your podcast, man, like for the last days? Where you did they credit? You too? So did they credit you, man, for the month of this month here?
I don't. No, I don't pay for it because I'm on so many different platforms. I got sponsors and everything, so I don't really pay for it.
I said last night I tried to call Shabaka's and it was off, wasn't it? Yours was off too.
Yeah, mine was off.
I spoke with the I spoke with the co-host, last night, you know what I'm saying, and he texted me, man, we was all shot, But anyway, though, now when you get into theology, Joe, I know you got a degree off in it. Dr. King had a degree in theology as well, too. But what is about when it comes down to self-defense, number one. Number two is, there are those in Afrocentric circle has stated, how can woman come from man's rib when the man came from the woman's womb? Riddle me that.
The man came from dirt.
Well,
hey, Hey, I
You're
gotta
getting into
go,
the
guys.
history of
Thank
this.
you. I appreciate all the discussion, but I got a call that I'm supposed to make here. Thank you, guys.
I understand.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah,
thanks, buddy.
Thank you, Mike.
All right. Okay, so I'm just putting that there from the Afrocentric perspective, okay, and then also too, why was it now, Joe? Not to tick you off again, but why was it on the plantation system that they would take black men and castrate them? Now, what was that all about?
Well, you got to remember one thing, Shabbat. Who brought him over here? Who brought you guys over here?
First question. His first question here, first of all, it wasn't the Mother, Son, and the Holy Ghost. It was the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, okay? So, but the second question, I cannot answer why people want to cut people's nuts off. I don't know what perversion or you know, I have no clue.
The question. I can answer the question.
Go ahead.
Well, that goes, just look what's happening today, Shabaka. You have
Hold
the
on,
same
Dave. They were going to let me
people.
answer the question.
Oh, I was going to say, the same people that brought them over on the boats that we talk about, the slave trade through the East Atlantic Trade Company.
Yeah, but they didn't cut them off, though. The white men did. You know?
Yeah, but I'm saying that it's happening today where you see it again with kids. They're telling kids, cut your peckers off. So, you know, it's the same people, just a different time of the year.
Okay, now to prove
I
your
want to
point
answer the
even
question.
further,
Mike wants to answer the question, Shabaka. You want your answer? Go ahead, Mike. Answer.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's back up in time. There are people today, and especially if we go back in time, who rightfully, justifiably, believe in racial identity and racial preservation. They don't believe in their race being amalgamized and amalgamated. And since that was put upon the white race more than anybody else, you probably had some people that were so annoyed and ticked off and pissed off by it that the notion of some black guy putting his cock in some white woman was offensive to the point that they would do such a thing. Number one.
Hold
on, wait. Let me answer. I'm answering the question.
Right. Okay, and I got a rebuttal.
It doesn't mean that they were right to do it. It doesn't mean that they were right to do it. Question that were people that would be justifiably angered by what was happening to their race that it would push them to such a point. Number two, a lot of what we hear, because it's one thing for you just to say in general, why were black people castrated, like it was some big thing. It was, to the extent that it is promoted in that way, it's probably akin to the false history we hear on everything. The false history we hear about Hitler, the false history we hear about a bunch of stuff. It's exaggerated and blown out of proportion to make people think, oh, the white people were castrating the black people, like it was a big thing. And so it was probably, if it happened at all and wasn't a complete fabrication just to piss people off and confuse issues, it would have happened for those reasons on a very slight, minor regard what happened here or there, and it was reported. And
if
then
they
turned
did,
it
the guy
into
surely died. Let me tell you that, because you bleed out in about a matter of minutes, you know.
Okay, now,
you don't live
another
after
thing,
that.
too.
Well, don't even start that shit, because then you got the circumcision shit going on, too.
Okay. Well, hold on, Dave. Okay, now, but at the same token, though, but why was it was permissible down there in North Carolina, Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi for a white male to go violate a 14-year-old black girl, and they used to refer to her as a breeder, and you can check out some of my past episodes on that there show. You know, you have access to them. And
I've got an answer to that question.
Oh, okay, hold on. Now, how do you think that it would make her father feel, her husband feel, and what have you? And then, like when me and Sarge got on this great debate about that motion picture Mandingo, where the white woman tells Ken Norton, well, if you don't do it to me, I'm going to tell the master that you raped me. And so
here's the easy answer to your question. Here's the easy answer to your question. No white man of God was doing that.
No.
You sure?
No, and that's the answer I'm going to give.
No white man of God was doing
Talmud, that. The religion that these people that I'm still talking about that want all of us dead, where they're going, what they believe in, the Talmud specifically states that a young girl, actually, and one of the biggest rabbis back in the beginning, Shabbat Ludovich, was the man and he took on a 3-year-old girlfriend. And they believe it is okay to have sex with a 3-year-old girl until because her hymen will heal. But here's the problem.
Yes, it is.
That's what their religion teaches. That's because it's demonic. But then sodomization of a boy up until the age of 8 years old is permitted without punishment. And anything against the goyim, it's what they believe in.
Okay, now
that's the people that were in charge of stuff down there.
Hey, fellas, let's take this conversation back to the here and now and what we all need to do, because we all need to rally around. Because we could go all over the place on our theories and ideas and opinions. So what I want to say, going back to Joe's initial presentation, that there's a lot of information out there and misinformation, good documentaries, Europa, The Last Battle, or Heard a Story Never Told, that helps to shed light on the truth about history because they've distorted it. Whether you're black, Chinese, Indian, or white, is that the demonic, satanic, godless, whatever label you want to put on it, system of this world is a new world order, one world government, global, worldwide corporation. And they consider all human beings, regardless of their race or color, to be nothing but chattel and literally to be property. And they've created an entire system through law to substantiate that. And that's why when you look into U.S. codes or you look at Black's Law Dictionary, it will tell you a person is a fictitious entity or a corporate entity. It's not a living man or woman. So they're treating people as if even living men and women with God-given and unalienable rights to begin with. So where we all need to work together and merge is, and this is where people like David Straight and Eric Dingus, who are at odds with each other, but they're both doing the right thing, are getting people on the right track. Because people need to make a declaration that I'm a living man, I'm not part of your 14th Amendment system, I'm a living man or woman, number one. And number two, you have no jurisdiction over me, and they need to make that declaration known lawfully, officially through the system on the record, and they need to go through a process to be identified as a living man or woman, not a piece of property. And they need to educate themselves on they need to educate themselves on the codes and the U.S. laws and the common law approach to society. This is where Eric Dingus is a huge, and I'm getting ready to get on a Zoom meeting with him, Joe. You should come into the Zoom meeting. I'll send you a link to it. It's at 9 o'clock. And we're going to be talking about, again, what people need to be doing in their local communities to get county commissioners and their sheriffs to once again, we need to, I'm going to be doing a Zoom meeting here at 9 o'clock with Eric Dingus. He's going to be discussing the things to get the people to be doing what they need to do in their communities to get their cities and counties unincorporated and to get common law and constitutional law reinstated with the sheriff.
People don't understand.
Hang on. How can I tag you through?
I'm bad over at my place, boy. We got knockdown dragouts going right here.
That's why we have no maritime courts, because everybody's in common.
I can't get a word in.
They look at us as dead entities, and as a dead entity, they borrow money on you, they insure you, they bond you as a dead entity. So you're a fictitious corporation. You are in control of yourself, but what they don't tell you is that you have to present yourself and declare yourself who you are.
And when you do that, they look at you like a nutcase. When you go there in court and you start presenting yourself, they laugh you out of the court.
They don't know the law. They're in a maritime court.
It doesn't matter. They have the guns.
Public and private cannot do business together. Do you understand that? Public and private cannot do
I understand that. Hey, time out. I understand that. But you know, if you walk into a courtroom, even with you, and we start talking that nonsense, they're going to laugh us out of there, electrocute us, and throw us in a holding cell.
You have to do it the proper way. You have to understand what you're talking about. They have a completely different lingo. You can't go in there and claim to be a sovereign citizen anymore. That's garbage. You can't do that.
That's right.
Okay? Sovereign and citizen can't even be put together. That's like Judeo-Christian. That's true. It's moronic. Oxymoronic. So what you have to understand is you have to have the mentality. You have to know everything about what, like Eric does. When you talk about doing something, You have to go from the base up, understanding from the very beginning that what they look at you as, you're not a person to them. They're magistrates.
Okay, Mike.
They're in court.
All right, hang on,
so
Dave.
if you change it, that's why we don't. And we talk about this all the time, Joe. That's why we don't have any accountability for anything done because it's because we're in a we're in a court handling businesses. That's all it is.
We cannot get the entire American public educated like Mike, like me, like you, and like everyone else. It's not going to happen. Mike, I hope you agree with me on that. It's coming around, though. It's just no way.
It's coming around.
This is only This is only for the biblical remnant, and it's only for God's people.
Yep.
I understand that, but Mike, how can we have numbers or a righteous army? I want to get back to the righteous army. I've been trying to do this for the last 30 minutes. What? Because I'm hoping my friend Ethan will call in. I think he said 8:30 he could call in. I think that's what he said. He sent me a text message. But he's got a very interesting background and with ties and things he's done throughout his life. And I was hoping he'd call in here tonight. But back to the righteous army. What's happened to another website's still up and running? What's the plan? Do you have any plans for this, or we push the envelope as far as we can go and just sitting there and idle and you just meet who you can and going from there?
Well, all the information that anybody needs to know is on the website, period.
Right.
So with that's the source, but then the people need to take the initiative to do the research, do the studying, and get them on track. Because you also have people.
That's the problem.
David Lester Straight, they are blackballing him, and they're trying to make him out to be a bad guy, and they're trying to, really make him look bad, and they're trying to discredit him. I know him personally.
Well, they've already done that to me.
Hey, Mike, do you know why they're going after David Straight? I watched a thing with him the other day, and he laid out the 5 pathways up through America and started talking about these attorneys that are in Washington State and New York, and the same guy owns the child trafficking. He's an attorney, but he has what do you call it, a partnership or whatever in both cities, and he actually owns 17 children's services. What you call CDC when you have trouble with your kids. He owns them, but yet he's the one trafficking kids. David Straight put him right out on blast. I think it was 2 weeks ago, and showed the 5 lanes that they're coming up and they're trafficking kids. And it is such a large scale of that. They want him dead.
Yeah,
there ain't a doubt in my mind.
Let me clarify 3 important things. What David Straight is doing right now, David Straight is an instrument of God. He's a man of God, and his purpose right now is to call all who will be a part of the genuine republic, which are God's people. And they are referred to as state nationals. They're not state citizens. They cannot and will not be in the body politic. But they're saying, you know what? I don't want nothing to do with this corporate system. I declare I'm going to be part of this republic. I am part of God's people. I'm a living man. That's his job, to turn people into state nationals that are worthy to be that.
Mike, how do you get standing? How do you get standing like that? How can you get standing? Because you have to be known. I mean, you have to have. When the Republic did it, they went to the Postal Union, and I don't know who's got background noise. Somebody's got them vibrating. I don't know what the heck that is. But we went and got standing first. We went to The Hague and made it known. Went to the Postal Union, put everything on record. Everything is of a record. You have to have a record, no matter who you are. Okay, and especially if you're the Republic. All right. So now we formulated this other jurisdiction that's operating parallel to the corporation. Okay. Now, how do you get standing? What does David Straight recommend?
Well, the fact that you're asking me means you haven't watched his videos. And if you haven't watched his videos,
I haven't.
To watch his videos.
Then you don't. No, I haven't. Joe. Videos. Mike, come on.
Joe,
more videos to watch. Man,
Joe,
oh man.
As important as Europa was to all of us, David Straight, that important.
On the videos, at both of the websites, because this is a factual statement. This is the most important statement on your show tonight, Joe. The 2 most important, significant, meaningful, valuable websites on the internet, on Earth today, are thebigvirushoax.com and righteousarmy.org. And on the videos page of both of those websites, at the bottom, at the top is Europa: The Last Battle, and at the bottom is 5 videos of David Straight doing a seminar a couple years ago, and that is the best place for anybody to get started. There's many other good videos that he's done.
Yeah, but I don't like to get in the middle of it, Mike, if I'm not going to see them all. You know what I mean? If I can't see them all, if I can't watch them all, I don't want to watch half of something, you know?
Yeah, no, you can see one of them, but you get to...
You're not part of it. It's the people that take the initiative.
No, Mike,
because I'm telling you,
Mike, hang on. Let me finish my statement, Mike. Hang on. Like you got the Europa: The Last Battle up there. It's from beginning to end. That's great. I don't want to watch something that's 30 minutes and you only got 10 minutes of it, Mike. What kind of? Come on, anybody's. You know, that's not right. You know what I mean?
What are you talking about?
I mean, I want all the information.
Saying, Joe? All David's stuff's on there. The hour and a half, couple
hours.
You
have all David Straight stuff on your website? You have all David Straight stuff on your website?
Entire video. All 12 hours is on my website of Europa: The Last Battle.
Oh, okay. I thought you only had 5.
Yeah.
I thought you only had 5 videos.
No, you got 5 things that from David Straight. That
I can't hear because everybody's talking over everybody. That's the problem. I can't hear because everybody's Mike starts
you
talking.
can see at the bottom of it shows David Straight's got 5 different sections where he's doing a seminar. You know, and it's in segments, but it's all there.
Now.
Yeah.
All right, now.
I think they're like an hour and a half long, each one, maybe.
Mike, can you email me the link to the Zoom conference? And is there a way that I can call in and patch through on the podcast? I think there's a way to call into the Zoom meeting, and you can get, you know.
With Eric, his son, I'll ask Eric how I can get you on, and I'll give you a call or send you a link.
Okay, great. Because I think it's important. And then everybody that's listening here, last night we had a slam-packed full house lined up, and they freaking cut me off. I mean, I had a whole house. I mean, I had so many people that were wanting to get in, you know. Tuesday night's my staple night show. And then, bam, they pulled that crap, you know. So, you know, and I had you on standby. I had a couple other people. I was going to ask you if you can get Dan on here, too, last night. But I figured there were too many people, you know. Because I like to talk to Dan. Dan's very knowledgeable. How's he been doing?
Yeah, Dan's good. I sent him a. Let me see. He said I.
Have you
talked
I have
to?
A show. What was the homeless guy's name that was the attorney? Damn it! I seen him on BitChute.
He's doing a show of his own right now.
He was kind of. Was it Charles?
This is how we all started in the Zoom. When the COVID hit, everybody started going to Zoom. And the Patriot groups were springing up all. Can I finish, please? All the Patriot groups were all springing up all across the internet, and we had all kinds of different groups. And then I came across Mike's at the end, and then and that's when I think we really had something good going there. I really do. But I think that you're right, Mike. You put all that effort into it. You said all the information on your website. All people
I'll give
go
Mike
there.
this credit right now because he said flat out, and he made a statement when he was getting upset. And I could tell he was getting very, very disgusted with the fact that so much and so many people knew where the information was, but yet we had nobody from the military step up and take precedence and say, hey, I'm former military or what. Nobody stepped forward. Nobody. I don't understand that. Isn't that crazy? I mean, me and Mike talked about that several times. I mean, out of all the people that Mike could talk to, and Joe, you were on just the broadcast that went out, and not a single soul stepped up and said, hey, I'm a United States Marine Corps recon or whatever, JSON. I do this, and that. I'm retired. Nobody. It disheartens me because that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm hoping I have someone like that. You know?
And let me tell you that David Straight himself has been doing this for 30-plus years or more, is disheartened and troubled and frustrated by the lack of effort on the people's part to step up and do the right thing. He said there should be 2 million people right now in Washington pulling them all out and stringing them up. That's what he said.
It's right for sure. He's right.
And
if you watch David Straight's seminar, it's unbelievable how he comes across you. And you know what it is? Like Mike said, he's an instrument of God because it's not only just him. His voice settles on you, and you start to pay attention to him.
I've watched some of it. I've seen him.
You know, it's very intriguing when he starts talking because he doesn't wander off, and he explains things. And when he tells you something, you can tell he's telling you the truth.
I've sat down in seminars back in 2009, 2010, 2003, 2004 with
David
people
Straight.
that we were given that with people that people that have been in the Patriot community that since have passed away, that have been in the Patriot community long before David Straight. So I've sat down with them.
No. Hold on a minute. Now, before don't say that, because listen, until you watch David Straight and figure out who he is and know what he's all about, you can't say that. I can say that right now. You cannot say that.
I've seen some of them.
You cannot say that. That's not even fair, because you have no idea what that guy knows, and he tells you.
That's right.
He's a whistleblower. He's probably the biggest whistleblower in the world.
Thing of the forms, all the forms I sent you, the same thing that President Turner sent me. That I sent you.
That stuff there's on the internet. That's all. No. He's
doing the same thing. What are you talking about?
Totally different, Joe. Totally different. I'm telling you.
Okay.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Not the same
totally
thing.
different.
I'm discharging debt with the stuff you're talking about. The stuff David Straight's doing, yes, you can discharge debt through that as you decide and you show how you figure out how to make your stance in your jurisdiction and to tell these people who you are as an entity. But two different ways. David Straight has got a more, I would say, law-like path, righteous path, and that's not to be a righteous army, but the righteous path, because I'm telling you, when you listen to the guy talk, if he had a platform where he could get up and talk in front of 40,000 people like some of these evangelists do, to get these complete brainwashed morons to sit in a football stadium and listen to him talk, and they don't even know what they're talking about. If David Straight could do that and people would go and see that, this whole shit show would change in a week.
There's that humming noise. There's that humming noise right there.
Okay, now let me ask you this.
Let me make this final point, and I'm going to go because I was going to say there's 3 points there. So there's David Straight. He's doing his part, and I would say once a person has digested well what David Straight is doing and what he's presenting, and they understand him better, and they've watched all through his all through his seminar, and they understand the system and the approach. I would say Eric Dinges is kind of like number 2 in terms of everything he's doing. It's kind of like the next level on what people need to be doing. And then there's another level, which my son is in the process of doing. Not everybody has to do it, but my son has been like the Spirit of God came over him over the last 6 months, and he's literally become like a private attorney general overnight. He burns the midnight oil every night for going on a year now. He knows the Supreme Court rulings, the U.S. codes, the common law, the how to win in court without an attorney. He currently has filed three
I got a guy in the chat room now that knows about that stuff, Mike. Yeah, he's been studying for years. Ron Reck. This guy's pretty good, too.
My son has already filed 3 cases
give Ron
in the
my
federal
regards.
court.
Tell Ron I said hello.
Hold on, let me finish my point here. My son's already filed 3 cases My son's already filed 3 cases in the federal courts, and it's only in the federal courts where the people that we're talking about that are doing David Straight's method, they're becoming state nationals, and those that are doing Eric's method, who are becoming state citizens, who are in the body politic, only have remedy through the federal courts, period. The lower courts do not allow the Constitution or the Bible or truth in. They don't. It's all legalese. It's all
Mike,
designed.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Can I ask you a question real quick? Okay, so when they tell me, when I go to the United States District Court, right, and they tell me they dismiss my case because they say I didn't follow administrative remedies by going through the lower courts, I can't win. How can I do that?
No, then you.
How do I bypass
Then you were
that?
way off. You were way off. Even if you were told you bypassed remedy by not going to the lower courts.
You just told me. You said they don't recognize that. You said they don't recognize it.
If you get on the show tonight with Eric, we can maybe address that depending on what they're talking about.
I know one thing, like Mike saying, when you talk about paperwork, just something small like a paperwork that you're trying to introduce into the record. If it's not correct, or you trying to do the process, Joe, they'll toss your shit right out. They don't care. They don't want to hear it. They don't want it to be known that it can be addressed, but it's got to be addressed like Mike's kid, Eric. I understand that. David Straight, these people know how to do it. It's just a matter of...
And let me make this last point, because on the third point that I was making there, I want to highlight something special about it that goes back to the I don't want to say argument, but philosophical, spiritual, theological discussion we were having earlier, races, the Israelites, etc. The ones that control, the ones that have the body politic, right? Even if everybody is, even if there's black, whites, Chinese, and Indians in heaven, guess what? There's going to be a hierarchical system. You're not going to have everybody. You don't have. You know the old saying, too many chiefs in the kitchen. There is a system in place. And the Israelite people are the body politic. That's all there is to it. That's biblical, and that's the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has said that there are a group of people in this nation that are blood related to the Founding Fathers, and they and they alone are the posterity of the Founding Fathers and the communities that existed at that time when this nation was built. And they alone shall be the ruling class, meaning the ones that make the laws, that pass the laws, that put God's work to work. Because that's what was supposed to be done from the beginning to begin with. That's what Adam and Eve's mission was, that they failed on, was to have God's law be the basis for how this world is operating. And they failed.
And
that's why
Yahushua,
who was called the second Adam, came and he did that. He fulfilled it. Yep. That's why he said, I fulfilled the law. He didn't get away. He didn't throw the law away. He fulfilled the law. He said, this is how men and women are to live. So when the system is
I got a question. I got a question. Okay, I got a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, now what about this hypocrite, this demon by the name of Jim Jones? And for those of you'll probably be in my age group to remember it, down in 1978, where he's going to sit up there taking the people mainly out of San Francisco to Guyana and to the wilderness. And then he was up here, seeing other men's wives, using narcotics himself. Then when Leo Ryan went down there to investigate reports that he was getting of improprieties going on down there, then he had him drink the Kool-Aid. Now, was that a man of God? To me, that dude...
You're talking about some psychopath, and it seems to me...
Yeah,
that
Jim Jones, he was a demon.
Just like David Koresh.
You seem to be making associations to white people with psychopaths like they're all one and the same. It's like I said, even people that call themselves Christians aren't really Christian. Yahushua said, many will come to me and say, look at all you've done in your name. And he'll say, depart from me, you worker of sin. Just because somebody has a cult or they get people to follow them, or even if they have a 501c3 church, or even if they're a preacher on television with 60 million believers and followers, doesn't mean that they're a man of God.
No, okay, all right, okay, now hold on. Now, see, hold it. Now we're getting somewhere here. Okay, so in other words, basically, man, let's just go on and say that he's a crook and a con artist, and hopefully his ass will burn in hell as well as he should, because he went up there and he deceived the faithful.
100%.
Those who are
100%. And he ain't the only one.
Amen, brother.
Yeah,
that's right.
You say,
there's too many of them,
That's
the problem.
Yeah, and you can say the same thing about Reverend Ike. Yeah, you can say the same thing about Reverend Ike. I mean, how the hell, man, am I going to go up here, go to a place of, I don't want to use the word religion, but a place of faith. But here, the congregation is mainly poor people putting all their hard-earned money off into this bucket. You see what I'm saying? Called the tithes, and then the pastor, he's out here driving a fucking Cadillac, Rolls Royce, and all this old type of shit. I call it puppet pimping.
Right on. Amen, brother. You're right.
They're not of God.
Yeah,
they're not of
Yeshua.
They're Luciferian in all ways pagan. That's them. Did you guys see this? The guy that got stabbed that was preaching, the priest.
Okay.
This past weekend.
Oh
my God.
Wait a minute. I think I heard something vaguely about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then
he's on YouTube.
I have to bail out. I got to bail out. God bless all you guys. I'll talk to you soon. I'll send
Mike,
you the link after 9, Jeff.
Yes, send me that link. All right.
Okay. No, but what I'm just saying, though, is this here, Tay, is that when you get these pulpit pimps up here, and you got a lot of them in the black community, and you could tell them that I said it. Hell, you can give them the phone number to the podcast. You see what I mean? It's because I've known over the course of my lifetime, many of people of my folks going there to church, faithfully paying their tithes. Then some of these institutions have the damn audacity to go to members of their congregation and says, you know, like you're late on your tithes, you ain't paid tithes and stuff like a mob boss. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Going up
like
there
they're keeping books on them. Yeah, it's a racket. It's exactly what it is, Shabak. It's a racket.
Right.
Look at Jim Baker.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
I mean,
oh, man, they belong under the fucking jail. They belong under the fucking jail.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
Put TJ in there, too.
How does a church sustain itself, then, if it doesn't ask for tithing? You're supposed to tithe anyway. You're supposed to tithe to the church.
Well, okay, well, I understand.
You're a member of the church.
Well, I understand that, Dave Jones, because they're good. Now, don't get me wrong. They're good pastors and they're good churchgoers and what have you. But many a time, I've known people who went to their pastor would have like a death in the family, or they would have a hardship in the family. You know what I'm saying? Well, hey, pastor, help me, and the pastor would tell them, no, you can't. They've had churches where the pastors would throw them out of the churches because they haven't been paid on their tithes Man, they're getting pulpit pimp, man. They're getting knocked upside the head. They've been hoodwinked. They've been bamboozled.
Hey, Shabaka.
It's just like a union. It's run just like a union. You don't pay your union dues, they kick your ass out.
Right. Or they come break your legs.
Listen, I don't want to. Listen, I understand we're concentrating on the corrupt ones, and then we're giving everybody a bad name because of it. We got to be careful of that because they're like you said, Shabaka. There are good people out there trying to do the right thing.
There's more good ones, Joe.
Oh yes,
there's more good ones than bad. But the bad ones got too many people wound up. People need to understand that these ones that speak in front of 40, somebody that talks in front of 40,000 people, like I just saw down in Texas. That guy
look
needs
at you.
his
Glad
ass
you
kicked.
brought. Now that
he needs his ass kicked. That's ridiculous.
Yo, totally. Now I'm going to give you some more ammo. Yeah,
give him a cherry to fire right to hell.
Okay, now I'm going to give you some more ammo on that there, Taze. When I first started podcasting, right, we did a marathon, man, fundraising, man, to help those mainly in the city, man, that deal with the hurricane that hit Texas, right? But old Joel Osteen, man, he closed the church. He closed down the church.
Unbelievable.
And hold it. Now, this is a hurricane, an act of God, right? Okay, people are perishing. Right? Okay, so therefore he's supposed to open that church up, man. He's supposed to be providing people with blankets, provisions, shelter.
Well,
you see what I'm saying? It's called puppet
Why would he do that? He'd have to get into his
pimping.
fund and then dip into his funding and give more out than that he should. If he can't get into his wallet.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me ask you
the
this.
motherfucker's a goddamn crook. And I'm saying it like this. He's a crook.
Listen,
there's a lot of them,
I want to get back. I want to focus back on that woman, Sandy Mary Akey. I think I
what is
sent down the last name there. But she
when's the
put out a
last time you
video,
talked
and I
to her?
promoted that video. Probably about. I sent her an email about 6 months ago, and she didn't reply to me. But she stopped replying to me. So. That's setting up a red flag right there because, I don't know. I had these people on from the Republic on my show, like I said, many times. And and Mike actually did. He snuffed them out. He pointed out a lot of red flags, and then they abandoned my show. They were like, oh, good luck, Joe. See you later. So they were, they were trying to, so for a long time, they were getting names and bringing militia. They kept hounding me, too, about the militia community. I remember that. Get your militia guys on the show, Joe. I remember they kept asking me that. Now that I remember that, so has the movement been hijacked? That doesn't mean that everybody that's promoting the Republic now is a bad person that's trying to set people up.
No.
So now, how do we clean that up? How do we clean it up? What do we do?
Well, the worst part is, who does she answer to? Who the hell does she answer to? Who does she report to? What's her agenda? If she's there to do that, who does she report to? That's what I want to know. I want to know who she's talking to. Because that's one of them sons of bitches. That's one of them 40,000 pulpit motherfuckers right there is what that is.
But listen, there's no proof. There's no proof. Remember, remember the guy Mike said it's an allegation right now. It just seems fishy. Well, listen, let me say this. Every single movement does the same crap. They start pointing fingers. You're an FBI agent. You're this. You're an infiltrator. You're this. And then everybody starts infighting, and it gets destroyed. Right? Am I right about this? That's how every single group does it. I mean, it's because we trip over our own way.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Just like the church has them. The church has them. These groups have them. It's you're not going to get away from it. It's just a matter you got to point it out and try to run them off.
So how does the military have success? How does the military have success? You have to have people in charge.
Well,
you have to have
listen,
order.
they have success, but they don't have it like you think they got it, because they got a gang problem in the United States Marine Corps, my friend. A serious gang problem. Believe that.
Sir, any military service is a gang. Any military service is a gang. The goddamn police department is a gang. Just like the street organizations and out there. The most notorious gang that I ever came across in the city of Los Angeles. And if Sarge is here, him and I can argue. Man, they downright sickening. Oh, yeah, most definitely. They downright sickening. Read a book called Chief by Daryl Gates. In my opinion, man, the man was a damn psychopath and a sociopath. He says take all drug users, casual drug users, take them out and shoot them. But his son was the biggest dope fiend going on down there in L.A. County.
Have you guys ever heard of the movie called 7-5 about the New York City cop that was corrupt, that did the work with the drug dealers from Jamaica, and he would run a front for him, and he, my God, you got to see it. It's called the 7-5.
Who was it?
No. This is newer. This is probably I want to say mid-90s, but this guy, he went to jail, but he is the most corrupt son of a bitch I have ever seen in my life, ever talked to the people. And this guy, the movie's called the 7-5, like the numbers that's spelled out. And it's in New York City, and there's 3 cops that are involved in it, and 2 of them were decent guys, and then he sucked them in. There's that infiltrator, that guy that, here's a $100 bill. He found this drug dealer, or he put somebody in the back of the car that was a kid. And the kid had a bunch of drug money. He goes, "Why are you not at the steak dinner tonight?" The kid would leave money on the seat. He let him go. Shit like that. How it started. But
who are you talking about? White boy Rick? You talking about white boy Rick?
No.
That guy?
I'll get it. I'll send it to you, Joe. I got it downloaded. I'll send it to you. But they show him in court. He's testifying in front of Congress, and they lock him up, but then he comes back and he does a documentary. He tells the story. All 3 of the cops actually come forward, and they tell a story about how it all happened, because it was a big deal. Jamaican drug gangs in New York City at the time in the 90s, right when crack came out, so it was huge.
I'm surprised I didn't hear it. Ricky Ross? You talking about Rick Ross?
No. This guy's a white guy. There's a white guy. There's 3 Italian guys, Irish guys, too. In the 7-5 precinct, it's a 7-5. That's why they call it the 7-5. It's the 75th precinct in New York City, and they said back in the 90s it was the worst place in America for anything. There was like 6 murders every 12 minutes or some shit.
I can't believe this. I think I just knocked my toe off the air. Son of a bitch.
Wow, this sounds like 77th Division in Los Angeles.
Exactly. How about them 7s, man? Them lucky 7s.
How did I do that?
These infiltrators. So this lady, and if this is the one that I got the emails from, I'm going to send them to you, Joe, because she was from Ohio. And when Mike was doing the militia thing and I signed up to do the state rep, I had her contact me out of like 30 times. I don't know who this woman is, and she would not stop sending me messages. And I'm like, listen. I finally sent her one and said, I don't know who you are, but if you'd like to chat, call my phone. Stop emailing me like I'm going to record this and you're going to document me into some shit. And I said something to Mike about it. He goes, well, she signed up. I don't know what her deal is, but that guy that Mike brought on says that she moved to Colorado now. So now I want to know who she answers to. That's the people I want to talk to, because I'd like to have 5 minutes alone with them. If that's what their agenda is, fuck them. Why can't we have a decent time? Why can't we live with some normality, some fucking dignity, and have some respect?
What's that?
No shit. You're not going to get it, These motherfuckers today, they sure as the hell don't know how to give it, so they ain't going to get it from me. Fuck.
Right. Now, let me ask you this here, Jeff.
It gets earned, It's a matter of... These kids are lost. I can't even imagine. I got 2 nieces that are 13 years old, identical twins. And I'm going to tell you right now, I can't see who in the God's name is going to lead their age group, their generation is fucking lost. Look what we got. Mr. Potato Head in fucking office. Don't the Trump coming? We got the Mr. Potato Head running the fucking. We got Mayorkas down there handing out fucking free visas. $10,000 to go to motherfucking New York City and get you a debit card with the motherfucking right to vote. And if you want to be a cop and illegal immigrants,
we crumb bum on Eric Adams on the we crumb bum on Eric Adams on the regular. Fuck Eric Adams. You see what I'm saying? Fuck Brandon Johnson. Oh,
all right. With America. We're not on air, you said.
I don't know if we are or not.
No, but we got to practice because you know the most intelligent people in the world curse more than anybody. You know that, don't you? That's a proven fact.
Pretty much. Yeah, they pretty much.
Hey, Joe, I don't give a fuck now. Hey, Joe, remember this. I don't give a fuck, not a single solitary fuck, because I don't give a fuck, motherfucker.
I know, but you're chasing people away by doing that.
No, we're not chasing nobody away because you know what? If we're chasing them away, then they don't want to hear the truth. That's the fact of the matter. Yeah, we do our thing right. We do it right when we have to. We know that.
When I do business at a bank, I don't talk like that. You know? I mean, come on.
But however, there is a hashtag, gentlemen, called Resurrection of the Mental Dead. Okay? It's because you got a whole lot of mentally dead-ass individuals out here. You see, and this is the truth. Now, your man Humpty Dumpty, Donald Trump, man, you know, he's going to court.
Oh, boy.
He's going to be testifying, and we're getting ready to take notes on that there, Joe, because we're going to do a show on that one right there, you know what I'm saying, providing, of course, Blog Talk doesn't, you know, tear down our podcast again. You see what I mean? And then keep in mind to prove Tave's point, you got these individuals, man, in positions of power who do not like truth. You see, anytime, man, that you speak against the popular version of what is truth, man, you're a walking dead man. That includes you
too,
the
worst part about, the infiltrators we're talking about, these infiltrators have gotten to these people like the president because these guys that do this shit, this Jeffrey Epstein, people think it's kind of just a joke and it's over. But what Jeffrey Epstein was doing was simply collecting data to blackmail everyone. You know what he was and where he's from? He's a Mossad agent from Israel. Our biggest fucking ally, right? The ones that bombed the USS Liberty, the ones that got caught spying on Americans twice. But here we are going to fund them nonstop, and even their prime minister sits up and says a month ago, America needs us. We don't need America. Well, then go pound salt, son of a bitch. Go fight Iran. Because you know what just happened, and you don't want to hear about this because I have a connection in the military I'm not going to talk a whole lot about, but I will tell you this. There's the Iron Dome system that we sent them, and it's supposed to be so spectacular, and then you see on the news everywhere that 99% of this attack that they just weather, that nothing hit nothing. Well, that's a effing lie, because what did happen, they hit the Mossad barracks, the most fortified place on this planet, this guy tells me, the most fortified place, because they have a specific ballistic missile set up called the Horizon. You ain't even heard of it. It's called the Horizon. And when a missile comes from Iran towards Israel, it detects it immediately, and then the Iron Dome comes on, okay? Here's what happens. These guys changed the whole outlook. Iran did some shit. They changed up their missiles. So now when one takes off, this thing scans it, detects it, Iron Dome goes into effect. But what does it do? It separates into two. So now it's filling the Iron Dome, and the actual warhead, which now there's not just one on the missile, they found out, there's two, and they both have dummy things they shoot out like flares. They struck a fucking airport runway, two of them, dead center, and the Mossad barracks, the most protected place on the planet. And then basically Iran said, we don't give a shit about your Iron Dome, America and Israel. We got you figured out. If you want to continue this bullshit, we will level you anyhow, anywhere. Now they're going to start talking about Netanyahu going to send F-35s over there, and guess what they're going to get? Dead pilots or captured prisoners of war and murdered. Because Israel and Netanyahu's another one of these Donald Trump and his pocket puppet motherfuckers that's an asshole with an agenda for power and for people to die. For people to die. That's what this whole goddamn thing is about, Joe. Is people have a religion that wants us
tell
dead.
the story. Tell it. Don't yell and swear.
I'm trying to tell you. That gets me so upset because people don't look at it like that. People think it's God, it's Israel. Israel can't be bad because that's all we've been told is it's bad. These people
They're not
believe
saying that. The people listening are not
people in
saying
America are 100% back in Israel. More than most people.
100% of the people don't back Israel. Not 100%.
I would say 80% of America stands with Israel right now because of the brainwashing.
Pretty divided.
Well, you're not hearing about it because, I mean, there's some, but not enough. Not enough because legitimately, it doesn't make any difference about Israel, Iran, Iraq. I don't give a shit if it's Antarctica. My problem is with the people. I don't care what color you are, what creed you are, gender, race, whatever. If you believe religiously and you take it to heart and you will die for what you believe in like these people do, and your beliefs are you can sodomize children, you can you want everyone that's not of your bloodline dead, that's a genocide of the human race. They want us all dead. Why don't people wake up and say, hey, fuck these people? They have been doing this for 5,000 years. God, I need a preach in front of 40,000 fucking people.
I got people listening right now, man.
Good. Let them listen. Let them hear the truth because I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off, Joe. I don't care if they don't want to hear it. You know what I don't want to hear? I don't want to hear somebody tell me they want me dead. I don't want to hear people tell me they want me dead. Or tell me I'm not an American. Or tell me I'm a
My listeners aren't telling you they want you dead. My listeners are not telling you that.
No, but that's what these people do. The ones who are against.
Okay, listen to me. You're not going to convince these people to come to our side if you're yelling at them. You know?
I'm not yelling at them. I'm yelling at I'm yelling about the subject because it seems like nobody listens because everybody stands back and they're afraid to say, hey. They're afraid to say, hey. Even the people on all the talk shows that we listen to, you know what they say? They can't say the word Jew. They can't say Zionism because they're afraid. That's the fear-mongering that they programmed into people, just like
it's not that they're afraid, some of them. Hang on. It's not people that are... Let me finish my statement. It's not that some people are afraid. A lot of people are not afraid. But the problem is that when do you risk everything and throw it away and go all in, and when do you not, because you're walking a fine line, because right now we know they control everything.
I have. You know why, Joe? You know why I have? And I don't care. I have, because I'm tired of hearing that somebody wants me dead and I'm not going to confront them. Kiss my ass. That's a coward. That's a coward. I don't care who you are. If you know for a fact that these people are doing this, you go at them. You go at them hard. And you call them out.
But we're not going to get these people to join our cause if we're swearing at them. I'm telling you right now.
I don't need them to join my cause. If that's not enough initiative,
we do need the patriots out there. We do need as many patriots as we can get.
If they don't want to join the cause and it's not enough initiative that somebody wants them dead, I don't want them on my team anyway. How's that?
That's what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
That's what has to be said, Joe. That's what has to be said.
You're not listening to me.
No,
I'm
Joe,
not saying they're
against
us. These people are on our side, Cave. They're on our side. But there's some people.
No, they're not. Not all of them. Some of them are. Some of them aren't. There's a lot of them that are. There's a lot of them that are because they just won't say. They won't call out the problem. That's why we have the problem. Everybody can have a talk show and talk and have a chat room, this, chat. Everybody can talk. But what does it matter when you don't call it out right in public like I do? I go to city council and I tell them, hey, you know what? This is all bullshit. I go to the city council meeting. I'm the one who stands there and tells them it's public, just like I'm talking.
Let me finish my
point. But Joe, it has to be heard like that.
No. When I played that documentary in the beginning, was that guy yelling at his audience that was listening? No, he was telling them the facts. Okay?
How many times have you played that? How many times have you played that?
Well, actually, that was the first time I ever played that other one. No, the other one.
I've heard a couple of them. Yeah, I've heard a couple.
The 2%. With the 2%. The 2% one.
Okay, here's the thing. There's enough information out there that we've talked about it, everybody knows about it. They're still in denial because they don't want to believe it and they don't want to talk about it. When they hear that shit, you're anti-Semitic, you're racist, you're terrorist. That's the fear that the people programmed into us to make us think that, because we're wrong because we're allowed to stand up for what I'm saying. That's the problem. That's the entire problem.
But how many times have we
100%.
seen street organization? How many times have we seen activism out there where people have just started yelling and turning it into a shit show? You're not going to get people to come to our side like that, just not. People are going to be like, well, I'm not going to be with that. You know what I mean? They're not. They want organization.
I've sent enough information out for people to look at simple information documents that if they can read that and they look at it, and they actually do the research and look into it a little bit, if they don't have the initiative to say, what in the who are these people? They're not people. They're demons, okay? When you people wake up to understand that the severity of what they preach in their pulpits to their people and what they believe in about you and you being destroyed, you being your children being sodomized, your kids being child sacrificed, that's the stuff that they preach. Now, if that's not enough initiative to say, hey, we got to stop this shit. These people can't be involved in our schools. 109 countries run them out, including the Vatican before they became corrupt. 109 countries, 1,030 times for what? Child sacrifice, usury, child pedophilia, child trafficking, deceit, lying.
You're missing my point. Missing my point. I'm not even talking about that right now. I'm talking about how we organize and present and bring people over to listen to our side of the story and tell the facts and the truth about history. If I'm standing on a street corner yelling and screaming at everybody, telling them to F off, F this, F that, telling them to go to hell, nobody's going to listen to me.
No, see, now what you're doing is you're taking my context of my words and you're twisting it because I have not said fuck off to anybody.
No, that's how people are perceiving it. I'm telling you how people are perceiving it.
Except the people that want me dead. I'm not talking to the people listening. The people who want me dead, fuck off. I'm not directing that towards the people listening. I'm trying to light a fire under people's asses to get up so we don't have to deal with it.
I don't know any other way to explain it.
Well,
you're not getting what I'm trying to say.
Here's the problem. You're not going to explain it to anybody because these people are of age and know enough information. And if they don't, then they don't want to know. Because it's not just me talking about it. It's all over the country. It's all over the world. Look at Australia. Look at Africa. Look at what's going on in Venezuela. Look down south at the southern border. Do you think that the president of this country and people are standing by watching it happen? Do you think that they're not sending in terrorists into this country to have the agenda that I'm talking about that want us dead? Because we're Americans and our government is so deceitful, lying bunch of crooked bums that they've ruined every country they've ever even encountered, including the one we're in. They have ruined it because they are not
we all
good
know
people.
That? You don't think we know that right now?
Apparently not enough people do because enough people ain't mad like I am. That's all I got to say.
Okay.
If they're mad like I am, there's a lot of them that are, but crime.
There's nothing wrong with being mad.
So somebody kicks your front door down to your house, you gonna let them walk through? You just gonna let them walk through your house? That's what they're doing.
Oh, no.
They've kicked down our door. They've kicked down our southern door. They're just walking through. Everybody's letting them walk through. Come on in. I live in a sanctuary city. I don't know if people understand that. A sanctuary city.
I know what you mean by that there, Dave. A sanctuary city, man, is like where they allow all these illegal motherfuckers come up here who are goddamn criminals. You see what I mean?
What?
And then when I was trapped, because I was in Denver recently and got caught in a blizzard, right? So I go to my motel, man. I'm coming out of a 7-Eleven, man. Hey, man, you got some change? And so then I go the next day, this same son of a bitch knocks on my door, asks me the same bullshit. I said, look, man, check this out, man. Is your medical insurance paid up? Because you got exactly about half a second to get up out of here, man, before I bash your goddamn skull in. Is because I'm going to treat it as a home invasion. You see what I mean?
People don't understand that, Shabaka. That's how bad this is. People don't even realize that there's actually police departments in California that actually let these migrants, these invaders, stay in the police station overnight, and they leave in the morning, and then they come back at night. I don't understand why people aren't open. I mean, California's a lost cause. I'm sorry. It seems like that's just a bad place out there altogether.
Sir, Tay, why do you think I moved to Nevada, man? I had to get the fuck about that insane asylum. Okay, it's a fucking insane asylum. You know,
I've been out there twice, and I've never seen anything that was good. I mean, you want to talk about Babylon? That is it right there. That's Babylon and Sodom and Gomorrah.
Okay, are you talking about San Francisco and Los Angeles, San Diego and Oakland, Sacramento, man?
Anywhere I gotta go, Shabaka, like I got an app on my phone to see how bad the shit is in the street, and it's called the crap app.
Did anybody get the Zoom link for Mike yet? Anybody get the Zoom link for Mike yet?
No.
Yeah, well, you see, this is why, man, you know, on my podcast, as you know, Joe, we crumb bum on Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles. We crumb bum on Eric Adams. We crumb bum on Brandon Johnson, you know what I'm saying? And I really wish Sarge was here and tell Sarge that he is ordered to report for Shabaka's Black Experience Enhanced Friday morning at 1100 hours, and otherwise he'll be charged with AWOL. Because we had him there last Friday talking about the O.J. Simpson case, and I don't even feel getting all riled up on that one right there. You see what I mean?
You know what? I don't even know what to say about that, because I heard just one comment from somebody on the news that said that they understand that he's got a estate or whatever. You know, there's money involved in it, but the people, what's his name? The father. They want all the money from it. They want it all. They want it all. Goldman. Yeah, Goldman wants all. Goldman. Guess what? Let's look up the where that lineage comes from. Goldman and Sachs. That's who's running the show. You know. You know.
Okay.
Guy can't even die before they want to dig up all his money.
Yeah.
That's sad.
And then keep in mind, though, but O.J. Simpson, in my opinion, and I'm just kind of diverting the concave down. Don't have an aneurysm on the stage. Okay, O.J. Simpson had made a statement during the height of the Black Empowerment era, talking about, I'm not black, I'm O.J. Say, man, do you know what the fuck that did to us as a people, man? You know what I'm saying?
Man.
Hey, that dude was
bring out a private caller. Bring out a private caller here. Hang on. Go ahead, private caller.
Am I in the right place here to catch up with something? He can't hide. That's all I want to say.
We're hitting you with Article 15, soldier. You're late for duty.
But I'm here. That's the bottom line.
Okay,
I'm here.
And you have another duty assignment at 1100 hours, Sarge, you know what I'm saying, on last Friday. And by the way, Sarge, you made the show, and I hate to have to tell you this here, Sarge, Dr. Bay scored heavily on you, man. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, please, come on. All I got to say is listen to the show if you believe that. That's all I got to say. I'll put a link in the chat room to it. Y'all can listen to it for yourselves. You make up your own mind. Don't listen to Baghdad Bob here. I know that.
Whoa. Who the hell is Baghdad Bob?
You need to refresh yourself and you'll know.
Sarge, I'm Shabaka Coy.
That gentleman had me on the ropes, all I got to say is listen to the show, and I'll rest my case. If you still believe he had me on the ropes at the show, I ain't got nothing to say to you. I'll give you the best evidence, and you decide for yourself.
Okay, Sarge, I got some evidence for you, man, in Los Angeles. Okay, how about getting pulled over with no probable cause, and then when you ask the police officer, what's your probable cause, and he levels a 9mm to the back of your head, Sarge. Now, how do you feel about that one?
Okay, now you want me to count for the actions of an individual police officer without me being able to ask him why he did what he did. And I'm supposed to, of course now, I have to take your word for it. So I'm going to have to take your word because I have no reason to believe you're lying. That the police officer pulled his firearm on you with no justification whatsoever. I have no evidence to the contrary other than your word that it is so. If that is so, Brother Shabaka, then that police officer committed a violation of rules and he committed on you aggravated assault. Again, I am saying if what you say is true, and he had no justification for it, he committed the crime of aggravated assault under Illinois law.
Okay, okay. You're right, Sarge, under Illinois law. Okay, so I would have to get with an attorney in California law to ask that. You know what I'm saying? Is because the thing is, Sarge.
But I guarantee you, he's going to provide a justification for it. I guarantee you that you're going to be up against that. Whether you like it or not, he is going to provide a justification as to why he did it, whether it is true or not. He is definitely going to do that. I'm just telling you. That's the way he's going to do it. It's the truth.
Okay, but Sarge, but what it is, have you read Chief yet by Daryl Gates, who was another psychopath, sociopath?
I ordered the book. The book. It's coming. When I get it, I'm going to read it because I've always been interested in reading. So I haven't read it.
Okay, Sarge. Okay, definitely check out the Eula Love case. Definitely check out the Deadweiler case. You know what I'm saying? Let me see. Definitely check out the shootout they had with the SLA in 1974 with Q and the Patty Hearst fiasco and all that. Oh, yes, Sarge. It's going to be some quite exhilarating.
Oh, wait a minute now. Wait a minute now. I do know for a fact that the SLA was heavily armed with fully automatic modified M1 carbines to fire automatic, and they fired thousands of rounds of ammunition. And when that house got set on fire, hundreds of rounds of ammunition was going off in the blaze. So they were heavily armed, and they were shooting at the police. And don't tell me that they weren't like that.
Sarge, that house I was over there off of 54th and Compton Avenue in May 1974. I watched it on TV. What it is that the LAPD said is that they fired a tear gas canister and they'd hit a box of ammunition. Sarge, if you believe that, then you believed in fried ice cream and boiled ice cubes. The LAPD.
So what do you think they did? They had a flamethrower? What do you think they went in there with a flamethrower and set it on fire? What did they do?
No, they shot tear gas into the residence, and allegedly, is that it had hit, struck a cache of ammunition and ignited. Now, the coroner, who I love the most, Sarge, I don't think Dr. Noguchi is no longer with us. Thomas Noguchi, he was the coroner of L.A. County, man, for about 35 years. Now, Dr. Henry Lee, Sarge, I have to tell you this. Well, when he was testifying in the O.J. Simpson case and he was looking at the way the swatches was planted, the way how evidence was planted, he said, something not right.
All right, guys, I'm going to call this Zoom. I'm going to call into this Zoom podcast here. They got this Zoom meeting going with Mike and a bunch of people. I'm going to see how it works. I got the phone number right now, so hopefully it'll work. If not,
while Joe works on that, all I'm saying is I watched 2 hours of that footage of the SLA shootout. There were microphones all over the place, and you could hear the supersonic crack of bullets from M1 carbines going by the microphones, and they were making a crack as they went by because they were shooting at the police.
Okay, now what about the SWAT officers too, Sarge?
They were shooting back. They were both shooting.
Sarge, I got news for you about something, Sarge. Guess who invented SWAT? It was the LAPD.
What's your problem with that?
Assault team.
What's your problem with that?
Okay.
669.
What's the problem with it? Okay,
Sarge. What's the problem with the SWAT team?
Because the LAPD is a terrorist organization. Why do you think
wait a minute. So you got suspects barricaded in a house, refusing to come out. They got automatic weapons. Not only are they prepared to use with, they did use them. And you mean to tell me you shouldn't have specially trained police officers to deal with situations like that?
Sarge,
are you serious?
The police department is nothing more than a military against the people.
Well, that's another argument. You're arguing against SWAT teams.
Okay, but Sarge,
all right, guys, hang on.
The police are policy enforcers, Sarge. They evolved away from the slave patrol.
Okay. All right. Well, they didn't have SWAT teams back then.
They're very...
Hey, Joe. Hey, Joe, how you
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
It won't let me do it. Damn.
You have not entered any numbers. Please re-enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
What if I can... Well, see, that's not artificial intelligence.
Crap.
But no, that's a conference
You have
call.
not entered any numbers. Please re-enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
Yeah, you got to have the code to get into the conference call. That's a conference call.
I have the meeting ID. It just won't. It doesn't give me an option on Blog Talk to punch it in.
He just sent it to me. I see the meeting ID and passcode
Joe,
now.
It's probably the interface from Blog Talk that's preventing you from doing that.
Probably. No. All I need is a keypad. I'm calling in from a telephone on Blog Talk Radio and a headset. I don't have I'm not calling in through Direct Connect.
Well, you got a smartphone, don't you?
Yeah, but trust me, it won't work.
You can get off your screen. You should be able to minimize your screen and go off screen and do the other touch.
And link it in.
Yeah.
Y'all be able to link your smartphone into this call.
Yeah.
All right. Well, why are you doing that?
On my phone, Sarge, I'm calling Blog Talk Radio from my phone, right? And so once I connect to Blog Talk Radio, that's it. I can't dial any numbers from my phone. I could dial on the keypad on Blog Talk. You know.
Okay.
Well, wait a minute. Now, if you're talking like I'm talking to you on the phone, I'm able to, if I just minimize Blog Talk talking to you, I'm actually we're not gonna call in to, the Zoom thing. What we're doing is we're patching in through the web, so it lets you.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Right. That's what this is now. Yeah.
Okay.
You just have to minimize the Blog Talk screen. Who knows? Blog Talk gives you guys such a hard time. I can't believe them some bitches are in business. There's another one who runs a pulpit. Bunch of bums. Sounds like they're robbing everybody.
They are, Tabe. They are. Believe me.
Every time I turn the lights last night,
month.
Joe got screwed. You got screwed. I'm thinking, what? And I know in the last 2 or 3 months, it's probably been a dozen times.
Oh yeah.
At least.
Now, Sarge. Okay, getting to you. And the Special Weapons Assault Team was invented by the Los Angeles Police Department by a black police captain by the name of Jesse Brewer. Okay? It was invented in 1967 when the Black Panther Party had a shootout with the LAPD because the LAPD had entered their facility illegally. And then there was an attorney that you're quite familiar with that got these guys off, Sarge. And yes, you guessed it. His name was Johnny Cochran.
Johnny Cochran. Yeah, I know.
Okay, now Johnny Cochran.
Wait, what is your basic objection to SWAT? Forget the fact that you think the LAPD is. We'll deal with that separately. What is your objection to a SWAT team that deals with barricaded offenders armed with automatic weapons?
Okay, but Sarge, that's just it though. When SWAT was invented, when they got off into the shootout with the Black Panther Party, man, off the corner of 45th and Compton Avenue, and those guys beat that rap, thanks to Johnny Cochran, is because they had entered illegally and they did not have a search warrant. You see, so therefore Mr. Cochran had got them off. Now, another person that Johnny Cochran got off was Mr. Geronimo Pratt, who was a Vietnam veteran, such as yourself, okay, who was the president of the L.A. chapter of the Black Panther Party, and they tried to pin a murder on him in Santa Monica, California in 1968, but Mr. Pratt was 400 miles away north up in Oakland, okay? So anytime that they would present evidence or ask the FBI for their evidence, they would say, hey, we need a Freedom of Information Act. This is classified. And to thank a cross-dresser by the name of John Edgar Hoover, Sarge, who sat there and infringed on your right of the people with the right to know. You see, so this is why they came up with the law right there of declassing government documents, okay, and which they had, and 90% of it was blacked out. You see what I mean? And that man has spent 30 years in prison illegally.
To that conversation, because I think that is what is of utmost.
Shabaka, your argument is an argument about improper police procedure, not about the need for a SWAT team.
I think everybody on this call is.
What I'm telling you is that the SWAT team, Sarge, is nothing more than a paramilitary unit. That's all it is. Why do you think they come out as PT? Why do you think they come out as
paramilitary automatically a bad word?
And we are limiting
that. What the bad words are?
Is paramilitary automatically a bad word or something?
And
paramilitary simply means that of and related to military procedures.
to hold our service
providers. But however, though, George Washington has said, Sarge, I'm using you now, that the people have a right to form a well-regulated militia.
So it is now
so when the Black Panthers had came up with that there, with point number 7, they were obeying the U.S. Constitution because
Wait a minute. Now don't go running too far afield now. You're going too far afield now. They had a right to keep and bear arms. They had a right to free association. They had a right to call themselves whatever they want to call themselves. But the Second Amendment militia is responsible to the governor that is necessary to secure the free state. That's what the Second Amendment militia is.
He had an obligation to Israel.
Okay, it says that even George Washington said, that the people have a right to have a well-standing militia to protect themselves against tyranny who might abuse them.
That's not what the Constitution says, That's not what it says.
And
you're misstating what it says.
Not be done by one man. It was just too great a number.
Okay, now what's that there in the background?
The birth of
I don't know.
Our forefathers knew of as
I think Joe might have packed in
the laws of nature, the laws of God and the laws of nature. And this is what our system of governance is set upon. And so one of the first things that we have to comprehend whenever we want to assemble, like our forefathers, the purpose of this particular assembly, and all assemblies really, is to take action. You assemble something for a cause, for an action, okay? Modern time, people think of an assembly as a protest, and they think that whenever they go out and they exercise their First Amendment right, which is a fallacy, that they're exercising their right to free speech and assembly at the same time, when actually they're doing nothing except acting like disobedient slaves. And it's not a good way to solve problems. We have processes available to us, remedy, if you will, in law, such as grievances and demands for redress, which is something that has fallen by the wayside. We have the right to common law juries whenever fraud has been committed or treason. Article 3/4. So it becomes our responsibility to ensure that we have that. And so when we talk about assembly, we're talking about a lawful assembly because we're creating a new body politic. And in order to do that in the proper status and standing, you have to create a declaration of self-determination. This is what our forefathers did. I think this is a very,
now, when the Black Panthers tried that, they were labeled as terrorists.
In the Declaration of Independence, our forefathers lay out that
they weren't arrested for having their arms in public. They weren't arrested
to make their cause known to the world. And so they did through the Declaration of Independence.
No, I'm talking about what Hoover called it.
I created a template for the assembly that we have here in Tennessee. And I've got some instructions to go with it, and it's just basically to give people an idea. It's based upon my personal declaration of self-determination, and I encourage people to, if nothing else, take a look at it and get an idea for what they need to do for the beginning of their path. Now,
okay, but when black people wanted to have self-determination, man, you know, we were hindered.
Stop right there. They didn't have to do
by the Democratic Party, the ones that brought you the Ku Klux Klan.
So what's up, buddy?
Yeah, hey, everybody. Just everybody knows, I just placed a link in the chat. There's a very significant person, as each person here is out in Colorado, named Mike Engel. He's a science-minded guy. He's on the same page as all of us. You know, we all have a few little differences here and there on things maybe, but he's pretty much on the same page. And he sends me a lot of emails, and he sent me this. If anybody's familiar, he just made me aware of this woman, Mickey Klein. Everything he said over the last. You familiar with Mickey?
I am. In fact, we have a couple of members of the assembly that are in contact with her because of what they're attempting to do. Very, very bold, very commendable and admirable. but there are some things that need to be perfected because law has due process to it. And when our jurisdiction communicates with their jurisdiction, there's actually a due process for that even. So I yield back to you, Mike.
So that's great. No, I appreciate that. So I think, with the you just made, when everybody watches this video, it's a little interview of her, and I watched maybe 75% of the video, and there's another video I have that I haven't even seen yet. But she's someone that I plan on getting in touch with, just to connect it with, just as I'm connected with you, Eric, and Dan, and others. I think she's a vital part of our community. And if there's some things, that are going to assist and help her and her efforts get to another level, that's all the better.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike, and that's exactly right. So we do have to build community, and we have to build the community based on the commonality that we were all born into this republic, and we have an obligation to it, and that is to uphold the rule of law and peace. And as long as we can come to the table on that common ground, there is no conversation that we shouldn't be able to muddle through and find resolve for. I think you could probably agree with that. It messes with most that are self-governing.
I'm trying to find a way to take my hand down.
Right on. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah, there is a due process. There is a way for us to handle this, and it's been made even more prevalent in modern time through Trump's executive orders. Now, I do not do politics. I don't I think they're all the same in my mind. I don't care which one you're talking about. But they all do their own things, and some of them good, some of them bad, some of them a mix. And Trump did write an executive order that pretty much gave us the opportunity to take the republic back, and then told us the republic is here for the taking, come and get it. The problem is there were never any instructions, and everybody believed in these ideas of QAnon and white hats and rapture, and guys, I know how it goes. I mean, everybody gets caught up in something that creates complacency. All of us do. It's just human nature. But nonetheless, the executive order was created, and in 2017, the Department of Defense Law of War Manual was changed. It was edited, and the edits that were made encompass 13, Section 13, Chapter 13, and in that particular section, or maybe it was 11, I'd have to go back and look to make sure, but either Section 11 or 13 defines what course of action we have to getting rid of our foreign usurping power. And so as long as we uphold to that course of action, then we should be able to find enforcement through the Judge Advocate General's office, through each state National Guard. Now, with that said, there's a reality to what we're doing. And in that reality, we have to comprehend, just like our forefathers comprehended that liberty has a price, and that price is your willingness to sacrifice for it. And your liberty only goes that far. And so what happens if the Judge Advocate General's office fails? If we're properly assembled, well, the final check and balance in the system is there ready to be used, and that is posse comitatus and the militia. The sheriffs and the people have the right to form together under the guise of the militia and execute the rule of law, and that's just the way it is. And I know that word makes a lot of people uncomfortable, but it is absolutely affirmed, even in the statutory law, that the militia is something that is real, and it is by right, and it is something that we don't have to be afraid of. They've even created paths to create statutory militias. I did it firsthand. 2 counties, and organized many others. And never had a problem with law enforcement, for sure. In fact, a lot of people that know me on this call already that will attest that I sit down with law enforcement. I enjoy it, actually, because we're a band of brothers. We all come into a position. I think most of them come into a position where they want to do what's right, but they're in a system where they can't do anything that's right, and they don't know what to do about it any more than most other Americans know what to do about it. So.
Eric, I did raise my hand again, just so you know. Right. I put it down, but I raised it again when you have a second.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, just wanted to ask, the Judge General Advocate, is that saying it properly? Judge General Advocate's office?
Judge Advocate General.
The Judge Advocate General, right. So when you had mentioned that again, I wanted to ask you, has anybody put that to the test yet? Do you know of anybody who's gone that route yet?
Yes. So when I was in a position in Texas where there was a gentleman, I'm not going to divulge his name. He was actually a Tennessean, and he was fleeing from corruption here, messy divorce where the wife ended up marrying the district attorney, the prosecuting attorney of the county, and so it created a lot of problems for him and his new wife, and so he fled to Texas and became part of our assembly there, and ended up getting arrested in a county down south, and so I went through the process as a peace officer and as an ambassador, and noticed the sheriff's office, and then served them by hand in the presence. I actually went and served them myself, and was allowed to meet with the prisoner as counsel, and obtain the documents that I needed to from him, the signing of the documents that I needed, and then I was able to go to the Judge Advocate General's office in San Antonio and begin the conversation, and everything was going really good. The only problem is that the assembly in Texas, the one that was involved in all this was an Anna Von Reitz assembly, and Anna started writing letters to the Judge Advocate General's office that were really heinous and nasty, and they just stopped communication. And that's something that definitely is something it needs to be addressed. Is when we deal with these people, we can't be we have to be adults. We have to be responsible managers, responsible business owners, Christians. We have to really offer a path for redemption for them, and it doesn't start by yelling at them and insulting them and being adversarial. I've seen it play out from both perspectives: the adversarial position and the respectful position, and the respectful position usually has success and plays out for the benefit of the individual. So I've been talking for a while. We've had a couple of other people join the call. Looks like Joe and somebody with the Samsung. So if you guys would like to say hi and introduce yourselves, we're glad to have you.
Hey, how you doing? Joseph Gibson here. I'm sure you remember me, Eric.
Yeah, I remember you, Joe. How you doing, buddy?
Doing all right. I hope you're doing well. You look good. I'm glad to see you're doing good.
Yeah, good to hear you. Glad to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'll sit back and listen. Yeah. If I got any questions, you know me. But
oh yeah, no question.
Good info.
You definitely have.
God bless you.
All right, looks like Samson's got his hand up there. How you doing tonight? Looks like you're muted there. I'm gonna try that.
Oh, that. Now can you hear me?
Oh yeah, there you go. Now I can hear you.
I'm trying to get my stuff set back up in Zoom again because I was with Mike and the National Militia back when you were doing this stuff. Was it 3 years ago? Tate Stanley's my name. I got to put my name across my new phone. That's I see that it comes up Samsung. So I'm just gonna mute myself and let you guys go on.
All right, brother. We're glad to have you.
Hear from you, Eric. Yep.
Good to have you with us, man. Yeah, it's always.
I see you too.
Hey, let me go on.
What matter? Always good.
Yeah.
Josh,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Eric. So I was wondering if we can get into, how we can go about forming electors, in our counties and our states.
Absolutely, because that is a vital part. So because we're in a new jurisdiction by making a declaration and removing ourselves from the corporation and presumption and assumption, we do need to establish a body politic such as our forefathers did. And so the most prudent way of doing this is to qualify one another. The biblical model is that if we have two witnesses to testify on our behalf, well, then that qualifies as a fact. And so by having two witnesses, we can qualify one another. Now, we've created a template form for qualified electors with the help of Charles Stewart in Texas, and then a little bit of tweaking that I've done to kind of bring it into a realm where the average common man can comprehend, because Charles is very gifted orator and writer and uses a very antiquated writing style that can be quite hard to comprehend, frankly. So we've got that template available, and of course, like all of these things, it becomes a matter of the body politic to make decisions, but everything is amendable in the common law. So, for example, let's say you start with only 3 people in your assembly, just enough to qualify one another as electors. And then all of a sudden you have 50 people. And some people are saying, well, that qualified elector form, I don't really, we might need to look at that. You're welcome to. You're welcome to change it. There's nothing in the world that you can't address from the community standpoint in the common law. And the reason is because this is where our individual sovereignty plays in, is from our own households, our castles. Also going back to some Blackstone, right? The castle doctrine. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. So the qualifying of electors, really what it boils down to is if you've got people that are in your sphere that can come together and say that if you need help, if you need assistance, if you find yourself in a position that the de facto agents and pirates are coming after you, or you can't buy food anymore because you're not going to participate in their stupid digital system, whatever the case may be, these are people that you're going to be willing to go to bat for on that occasion. And you literally have to be willing to stand shoulder to shoulder with each other in those times and show up for one another, because this is serious business we're talking about here at this point. There's no room for maneuvering. So if we're not fully committed to show up for one another in that regard, we shouldn't even be contemplating this as a possibility in our lives. So I do want to give that disclaimer. So again, it's just a matter of, will you stand? Is this person honorable? Is this person capable of being an elector? Do I want this man or this woman involved in this community? These are questions that you need to definitely be asking yourselves. But I think that most of the self-governing people have, we'll say, good intent. And with that, a willingness maybe to listen and to learn. So there's, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so you've made the statement, rightfully so, that one of the significant things people need to do is they do need to somehow make a declaration unto that system of their system.
Well, not to the system, not just to clarify, not just to the system, but to the world, to all the men and women of the world, right?
So point being that there's a process that people do need to go through to make it known in writing.
Yes.
It's a process to make it official that I declare myself a living man on the land. I'm not part of your corporate system. I'm a man under God, self-governing. So there's a declaration of status that should it therefore only be those people. Is it therefore only those people? Right. So is it therefore only those people that are the ones that are qualified to be in this 30 people elector system that we're putting together?
Absolutely. If they are not, if a man or a woman is not capable of comprehending the necessity with the declaration and understanding or comprehending its importance to what they're actually doing, and it is a declaration of self-determination. It's very important that it is titled that, because you're expressing your unalienable right of self-determination.
Right on.
So yes, if they have not done a declaration, I would not assemble with them, because they cannot lawfully assemble. They do not have rights. They have privileges and benefits as granted through their franchise. So that's the basic. I think we've covered pretty much the basic concept of qualifying. Now, and if we could, maybe let's give some historical context to an elector and what that is, because I think it's important for us to really comprehend what the word elector is indicating. In our body politic, that is someone who historically is a property owner. Now, there are caveats, because there's so much fraud and so much of the path is obscured. And the caveat is that in order to be an elector, you don't necessarily have to be a property owner, because in the common law jurisdiction, property ownership is a lot different than, and we were talking about this at the beginning of the call, and this is, again, lend back to the point of why this is such a vital part of all of this, is because we are not subjugated to the metes and the bounds established by the corporation. Our counties don't have to look like their counties. Our districts shouldn't look like their districts. Our states don't even have to look like their states, to be quite frank. We have an unlimited amount of authority in our jurisdiction as defined like a county by our geographical boundaries, which are the borders and boundaries of the United States of America. Go ahead, Mike.
Again, Eric, I'm inspired by your words as usual. Everything you're saying is so perfectly well articulated that the question just came to my mind. Eric, and I hope the answer is yes, and maybe you can elaborate it. Are there a bunch of people associated with you above and beyond or equal to that are aware of everything you're saying and that are on the same wavelength with that?
Absolutely. And there's actually a lot of evidence speaking to this. So for educational, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you can hear me, Eric?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Is this referring to the electoral college as far as property owner that you're referring to? I thought I heard somebody say that that's a 3-vote process, or each person gets. Is that right?
Well, that's in the statutory system. Okay. And that system is so the electoral college in the statutory system is actually a franchise of the Territorial Federal Service Corporation. And that Dun & Bradstreet number is registered to the Council on Foreign Relations, and Blackstone and Vanguard corporations are part of the ownership of that particular entity. So our electoral college has been usurped by a foreign authority, a foreign power. And this is something that you'll find across the board. So every county, every state, every government agency has its own independent corporate registry with the Dun & Bradstreet, and they are all operating for profit, including the courts. Yeah, and so when we're talking about electors in the common law, we're speaking of property owners, and historically, an elector's vote counts as 2, and a national, someone who just has birthright nationality, would constitute one vote in the system of body politic.
Now, being a property owner, is that the land, except the land patent and actually owning? Because I own my house outright, but I know I still have to pay property taxes, so I'm not actually a property owner.
Well, okay, so that's a little bit of so there's some things there that we would have to go into detail about. And again, and I get it, it takes time. You keep going back into the corporate jurisdiction, and it's hard to make the complete transition. So land patent is predominantly a common law practice. Now, as a U.S. citizen, if you are in that jurisdiction, Senate document number 43 of the 63rd Congress, Senate document number 43 of the 63rd Congress states clearly that the only right to ownership in the United States is mere usury. And so if you're in the United States jurisdiction, which a U.S. citizen would be, you cannot own property. It's impossible of any kind, not an automobile, not your children, not a home, nothing. It's all an illusion based on their system of law.
We're a fiction.
Yes, that's exactly right. You're strong.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Now, there are things you can do to correct even that, and there are processes beyond a simple declaration of self-determination and beyond assembling. But this that we're talking about here tonight is actually what we do to fix these problems, okay? Because these conversions have been made unlawfully, and a public trust has been created, and we haven't been the beneficiaries of it, even though we're actually the rightful owners of it. And so, go ahead.
Another point for clarification, Eric.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and again, just for the record, everybody, whenever I'm kind of talking, I'm always putting my hand down, and then if I have another question comes by, I'll raise my hand again. If everybody else could do the same, just so we can keep this organized like we're doing. So, the earlier point I wanted clarity on, which you did great. That yes, indeed, anybody that's going to be part of that 30, right, to create a assembly should be, have established, and I love the word you use, a declaration of self-determination. That's beautiful. And it's done officially through paper. Let the system know, let the world know, who you are, what you are. So let's add to that now for a little further clarification, the aspect of state, national, state citizen. Is it fair to say also, I'll make the statement, you let us, just say yes or no or right or wrong, that there are there are people who are welcome to come into the republic as, which would be just say a state national or declaring themselves as a state national or a self-determined person, but they're not necessarily in the body politic, which would be the state citizen. So that only the person who's actually making a declaration of status as a state citizen would, in fact, be that person, again, who's in the body politic that would therefore be a part of that 30.
Okay, yes. Now, see, that this is a very complex question, Mike, and before I address it, I would like to address a couple of other things. First thing I'd like to address is, yes, I should be operating this call by Robert's Rules of Engagement, and I do apologize. These are some of the first calls that I've done. I've actually, some of you that know me know that I'm a technological illiterate, so I've just become accustomed to Zoom and paid for the subscription. So I'm going to start recording now.
This meeting is being recorded.
And then I would like to engage in Robert's rules loosely, just because I want to make sure that if I don't notice your hand, please feel free to unmute and say, might I have the floor, or just excuse me or something, just to get my attention, because I get lost in the conversation and don't look at the screen. So bear with me. So with that said, Mike, to answer your question of status, okay, because that's really what that boils down to. So the first thing I'd like to address in status is this is a non-judiciable question. status is non-judiciable, which means it is by right of self-determination. Okay? Now, your national birthright status cannot change. It is what it is. It is your birthright. And unfortunately, you didn't choose it, but it is you. And in this country, that's a benefit because it makes you an American. It makes you part of this body politic that we have, regardless of how skewed it may be. There are still benefits to it. And the benefits is that we have a course for correction. Now, in saying that, so when you hear terms like state national or American state national, these terms are not accurate necessarily, okay? A nationality is something that is commonly referred to, and that is a birthright status, absolutely. And so your nationality, depending on where you're from, would be a Tennessean, Texan, Floridian, Michigan, wherever. And that, of course, is a non-judiciable question because it's your birthright. And then anything beyond that is by self-determination. Now, when we talk about state citizens, there's two types of state citizens, actually. There's the state citizen that exists inside the Federal Service Corporation that they recognize, which is part of the several states of union, which the federal system created. Regardless of their status being fraudulent or not, they're still there and they exist, and we have the ability to navigate in them. That is a non-judiciable question, the state citizenship, as long as you are of a state and you own property and you are then a qualified elector, which by their rights and passages, you own property in a state, you're that, so therefore you're a state citizen. And you're entitled to the rights and protections as part of the posterity. Now, if you're in the Republic jurisdiction and you're a state citizen, well, that's whatever the Republic jurisdiction determines to be a state citizen by their course of action in their jurisdiction, by their consensus. It's different. There's a conjunction, though. There's a connection. And the purpose of that is the fact that we're operating in the same system, but in different jurisdictions. And so there has to be some sort of a bridge, right? Otherwise, the people don't have a point to manage from. So in the de facto jurisdiction, if you were to go in and manage and you were to use the Article 3 venue courts in their jurisdiction, you would go in a position known as a private attorney general. But, for example, if you were going to be executing this position from of authority and management from the Republic, you would be in a position known as an ex-state royale. Both have similar definitions, but exist in two different jurisdictions, but you can see how the overlay works. And this is actually very common. And the reason for this is because, like I mentioned earlier with the New Deal, when they altered the system of justice and turned it into a for-profit corporation, they had to create remedy. You cannot have law without remedy. It's a fallacy, because if they do that, then that means that they're subjugated to the same thing, because the Magna Carta, right? The Magna Carta establishes that no king, no royal, no elite is outside of the law. And the Magna Carta stands as a supreme law in the international jurisdiction, which is another jurisdictional overlay and superior to that of a nation, because this is what gives nations the right of war and commerce and all these other things that we do as nations. So I hope that gives a little clarity. And if you would like, Mike, I can probably go a little bit further in defining this. So just let me know if I've accomplished your answer there.
Yeah, actually, you kind of, if anything, you opened the door to the fact that it's more complex than most people realized. And you do a good job of that, because it's true, there's different layers. You always refer to it as layers, and it makes sense that way. There are different layers. So I guess for the benefit of, again, hopefully this video gets out there, because everything you have to say is very significant and important because of everything that's going on right now. There's obviously movements out there. We can mention the Anna Von Reitz, the David Straight, many names of people. I forget some of the other names, but there's people out there that are aware of this reality of U.S. codes and republic and being a living man versus being part of their corporate system. And some of them have been around for years, and they have followings, and people, start, getting associated with groups with different people. But it's, as you know, Eric, it's always been my position that, wait a minute, we all need to be pulling together. And I think ultimately that's what's going to happen at some point in the future. So I think that everybody that's out there doing what they're doing, they all have their point and their purpose. And to be honest with you, I just earlier referenced, I refer to a particular individual as being a great starting place for people, and I refer to you as being that next level of being able to be more concise and direct about the actions that need to be taken in a local community. As you know, that's always what I've appreciated about you, Eric, is you're all about that local jurisdiction, common law, Exodus 18 model, and individual sovereignty authority of the, self-determination.
Yes.
So to some extent, probably the reason I'm trying to air this out a little bit right now in this particular recording is because I know there's going to be a lot of other people out there that are at that point of just thinking, oh, yeah, just, becoming a state national is the catch-all, win-all. You've already made it clear that it's much more dynamic than that. There's other layers. So, yeah, I just want to give some clarity to how it ties in again with this, just the issue of the 30 people, right, that we were initially talking about, actually before you started recording, I think, right, that we need at least 30 people in any given community to be able to create an assembly that can take action where they would take it to the, again, give me the proper name,
Judge Advocate General.
Right, Judge Advocate General, to see that enforcement is carried out on a specific issue.
Right.
So we further clarified that those 30 people certainly should be people that are taking those steps to go through a process of declaring their status as a living man on the land under God's law with self-determination, and letting the world know that's where they stand. So then I wanted to make that extra, clarity of should those people therefore be state citizens, because I understood that the state citizen was the one that's involved in body politic, whereas the state national wasn't necessarily involved with the body politic, but they were welcome to say, you know what, I don't want to be part of your corporation anymore. I'm putting my loyalties over here with the republic. I'm not involved in the body politic, but I'm in their camp.
Yes. Okay, so I'll just, and it's probably a good thing to do, since we're recording now, let me go over the whole concept here that we're talking about. So, as a 14th Amendment citizen, a U.S. citizen, whether you be territorial or municipal, you are operating a franchise of the U.S. Federal Territorial Service Corporation as defined in the United States Code 3002. And I believe it is 15 that defines that specifically. Now, because of this, you have exchanged your rights for benefits and privileges unbeknownst to you. And so you have, once you become aware of this and comprehend what's happened, you have the right of self-determination. You don't have to stand for fraud, because once you've been able to determine that there's been fraud committed, it vitiates all contracts. And because that Federal Service Corporation works off a system of pledging contracts, unless you consent by signing a contract, then you don't have to be part of their system. And so this is where status starts to become an important issue. Mm-hmm. And so to clarify the statuses, you have a nationality, a birthright, which is whatever nation state you're born to. I'm blessed to be a Nebraskan, actually, and a Texan by right of property ownership and choice. Even though my family's 7 generations deep in Texas, I was born on Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska. So technically, I'm a Nebraskan, which is fine. I mean, at least I was born in the United States of America, and I have the liberties that I do and can express them in the way I can. So I digress. So that would be a nationality. It could be referred to as a national, absolutely. But frequently when people use the term national, what they're referring to is someone who's part of a nationalist form of government, which is what they accused the Nazi Party of being, if you'll remember. So I try to avoid that term. It's a nationality, just plain and simple. It's a nationality. So then you have, what is known as state citizenship. And state citizenship in the jurisdiction of the de facto means that you're part of the posterity and thereby still of right. You're still sui juris. But they'll try to trick you continuously to getting into the whole pro se stance when you go into the courts, and they're going to try and trip you up. And it's still a non-judicial question in their jurisdiction because it's by right of self-determination, and your ability to become a property owner is what makes you a state citizen in their jurisdiction, in their jurisdictional plane. That's how that works. Now, in the common law jurisdiction, there is also a state citizen, and there's also a nationality. Those things are parallel to one another, and state citizenship in the republic functions a little bit differently because it's based off of the principles of whatever the jurisdiction defines as a state citizen, which wasn't ever defined. Those offices were abandoned before these things could have been worked out because of the nature of how this all transpired. So then again, there's the 14th Amendment citizenship, which originally, whenever the Union formed and the federal government was rolled out, you would have been considered a citizen of the United States of America, not a U.S. citizen. Two totally different titles. So when you start to examine U.S. citizenship, it is also defined by U.S. statute and code, and it is defined as a franchise because you are operating a corporation known as a straw man, your all caps name, and you've done this via contract, not to your knowledge. But in the Republic of the United States, you would be essentially, if you're part of that body politic, you would be essentially a citizen of the United States of America, or a citizen of the Republic of the United States of America, technically. So I hope that sheds a little clarity on the status, citizenship, standing type of thing, and we can elaborate and get into great detail into each one of those statuses because they all have particulars.
One quick question.
Yes, please, Mike.
Yeah. So you indicated this was kind of took me a little confusion to get clarified that in public, you essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, indicated that any given community can make their own determination on what a state citizen is or isn't, and it therefore can vary from community to community?
In the common law. Well, no, okay, at a point there has to be a consensus. See, common law works off of consensus. This is where, okay, so before I get into that, remember your question, please, Mike, because I'd like to finish the first one because the rest of the question was part of your second question. I was just kind of recapping for people that were just joining the recording, so we'll do this in two parts. So to finish the first question, the process of assembly, you absolutely, if you're going to do this for the purpose of enforcement, which is what we're talking about, our self-determination, we're separating ourselves from the system and we're reoccupying the abandoned offices within the Republic, that definitely should only be done by people that have made a declaration of self-determination, whether they be national or state citizen, or U.S. citizen alike. They should definitely put this declaration on the record. And the reason for that, and when I say on the record, I mean in the paper, in the court, in the recorder's office of the county, make sure you try to do your best to make sure this notice goes with you everywhere and is noticed by everyone, because you're identifying yourself as I'm not in your jurisdiction. I have practiced my right of self-determination and have separated myself into this jurisdiction, which is defined here in this declaration. You know what I mean? You want to create at least that level of assertment in their jurisdiction that you're no longer participating. And so after that's accomplished, yes, then now you can begin to assemble, and now you're creating a common law jurisdiction. You're not really creating it, you're occupying it and fulfilling the unfinished task of creating that jurisdiction. That would look a little different at the county level than it will at the state level and the union level and how it plays out in the international level. And these things are going to have to be determined. We're going to have to wing it and figure this all out, because there is no model for that, unfortunately. There are concepts that were expressed by our forefathers that do play into this, but I really think that at that point, if we can truly assemble to that point, we have to address things from the here and now. As much as I value the forefathers, their time in history has passed, and our time is much different than theirs. So we have to address things from a new perspective. So I think these things will just have to play out, and I have confidence in us to be able to do that easily, actually. So now you're. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I'd like to add this very significant point to everything you're saying. Not, because it was implied in what you were saying, but I want to point out that everything you were discussing is for the basis of we, the living men and women, being able to hold accountable in that corporate structure, because we're above them, they're below us, they are our servants. And so we therefore, we're really talking here about that reality of being able to hold them accountable, which I'll say again, just for the record, and you did start recording it, and I mentioned earlier before I started recording, I put in the chat video from Mickey Klon, right, who, again, I encourage everybody to watch that video. I appreciate, Eric, that you said that there's some things further that they could be doing, but, the woman has certainly stepped up to the plate, to do what she can to put things in writing to hold their public officials accountable in her neck of the and the fact that you have some additional things that you can communicate to them so that they can, which really would have to do with that next level of enforcement, right, and getting them to understand the whole reality of the, and I keep forgetting the name, Judge Advocate General's office. I got to remember that. Judge Advocate General, JAG. Judge Advocate General.
That's exactly it.
All right. Okay. So, that's just an important point I wanted to make that was, kind of sides, flying along there with everything you were saying. It's that we ultimately are the authority. We're when we are putting forth this reality that we are declaring our status as self-determination, men and women living under God's law on the land, it's because we're above and we hold these public servants accountable. I just wanted to incorporate that reality. That's what we're dealing with here, and it's an important matter. And Eric is in the process here of helping to lead us into how we can make that happen by the grace of God.
Well, and it is by the grace of God, without question. I absolutely stand on the shoulders of giants. So, thank you, Mike. Very kind words tonight. You're very flattering. Joe, you have your hand up.
Yeah, hang on. Well, my question would be now is that as this moves forward, what happens when they engage us? I mean, they're not going to willingly just step aside. I mean, some.
Well, Yeah, you're not incorrect, but it's going to be a mixed bag, Joe. Is what's going to happen, and it's already started to happen in many communities here in Tennessee and in Texas. The de facto system does capitulate with the rule of law, especially when you can present it to them in a position of authority and power, and whenever you do it, offering them the olive branch, a way out. It's when they feel like that they have no way out that they really become adversarial to what is happening. My experience has been, and again, I have contacts at pretty high level, and the conversations that we have consist of, man, the higher up the food chain you go, the less people know what the hell's going on or what to do about it. And that's because nobody really knows except for the American people, because the American people are the only ones that are capable of fixing this. Our forefathers knew that at such a time as this would arise, which is why they did what they did. Good, bad, ugly, and it doesn't matter. It is what it is. So, Joe, it really comes back to when in the beginning we started this conversation about assembling and why we're doing it and what our forefathers had envisioned and what they had planned and the background they came from. They knew that their liberty was only as good as their ability to stand up for it. And we as Americans need to comprehend that our liberty is only ours by the same measure. And as a community, we must come together shoulder to shoulder. In fact, if we're going to take on this process, we must be willing to make the same sacrifices that our forefathers were willing to make. And we must be willing to do it for one another and show up when people call. In fact, if you're not going to show up when people call, in whatever crisis it may be, then you really should not be doing this. I would advise against it because you're of the faint of heart, and even the scriptures speak to that and gives a way out for you people that are incapable. So I think that is a good question, and I think it's a good point, and it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed in a responsible way. And in my Declaration of Self-Determination, I actually talk about upholding the peace, because not only do we have an obligation to uphold the rule of law, we also have the obligation to uphold the peace. And this is the place that we start, and this goes back to what I was referring to about giving our public servants a means of redemption, if you will. If you'll change your ways and you'll make adjustments in your corporate standing and the way your body politic over there is operating, according to the will of the people over here in the proper jurisdiction and the rule of law, well, then there's no reason for us to try and prosecute you or hold you accountable for any crimes, because good Lord knows we were all subjugated and indoctrinated to a system that none of us could completely comprehend. Mm-hmm. So there can be forgiveness. There has to be. There has to be that opportunity, and that's the position that we have to take. And if that fails and we go to the Judge Advocate General's office and that fails, it is our ultimate responsibility, and it will require sacrifice, most definitely. But to be quite frank, I really don't see it going to that except in small pockets. And in those small pockets, I think that it can be dealt with in a humane, very peaceful way for the most part. There's going to be problems, so I'm not going to deny it. Mm-hmm. I yield. I hope that answered your question, Joe.
Yeah, since you yielded, Joe put his hands down. I put mine up again. You know, I'm going to admit to you, Eric, it's really easy for us as human beings to want to, let me just say it, us accountable, right? And that's like a vengeance. And so your thing about an olive branch, you know, just sitting here while I was meeting with Josh saying, man, Eric's right. I mean, and you laid it out well. We because they themselves, many of them are indoctrinated. They don't even know better, a lot of them. So the notion of us saying, look, we're just trying to educate you, and here's the right thing, and we don't need to prosecute you. You know, just change and do things according to common law and God's law, and we the people. First, and then if that doesn't work, then you still have JAG available. And if that doesn't work, then we're going kinetic. But that is a system that's taking the peaceful approach. Well, go ahead, Josh.
Well, these public servants that Eric is speaking of are being controlled by other forces, and those other forces need to be dealt with because they're not going to step aside, and they're going. And we've identified who those forces are, and there is not going to be coming to any terms with them. And quite frankly, I don't want to come to terms with them. That's just my stance.
That's true.
Because it's been 2,000 years and we haven't, come to terms with them. And now I do agree with you that there are people, most of our public servants, our public officials, as you witnessed in Texas, with the Border Patrol agents and whatnot, are willing to listen, willing to uphold the law. But we have to look at, who's making decisions for them? Who is telling them what to do to use them against us? And that's the segment needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
They do.
You're exactly right. So if I might have a little latitude here, I'd like to share a personal story, an experience that I had after I returned to Tennessee from the border. I was invited by one of Michael Flynn's top assistants, top hands, former operator, Army, and we had a private conversation talking about. Remember a while ago I said the farther up the food chain you go, the less they know. This is one of the brothers that is of that opinion, of that mindset. So I do take his counsel highly because I feel that he's being legitimate with what he's saying in that, just based on my personal experience. He invited me to a private meeting for some Republicans, and there was a guest from Arizona, a representative. And I listened to this representative lie to the politicians of Tennessee and the men and women of Tennessee. And so there was a point when they opened up for questions, and I put him on the spot. In fact, I called him a liar to his face without actually calling him a liar. I said, so based on my experience, which I just returned from the border and have a lot of video evidence of what I'm about to articulate to you, what I saw was no law enforcement present. In fact, I traveled 1,300 miles along the border and can tell you that I can count all the Border Patrol agents that I encountered off-grid, away from the checkpoints, on both hands. So that, to me, is not indicative of security. And Representative, in Arizona, there was less law enforcement present there than any other state aside from New Mexico. But New Mexico's wall's finished, and they have private security teams over there that are like mercenaries. I don't know what you guys are doing.
Hey, Sarge, you still on the line?
And
Sarge.
There were politicians that got up and walked out.
You there? Whoever's there.
And I was actually thanked after that by the organizers of the meeting, and it was told to me by a third party that I did exactly what they were hoping that I would do, which I'm known for, and that is calling these assholes out.
Sarge, you there?
These guys are despicable criminals, and they lie to our faces, and they sell us this hope. It's hopium, and it's got to stop. And when we get out there and we do what we're supposed to do as biblical citizens and as Americans, and we take responsibility and do things like what I did, which was take a colleague and spend 3 weeks on the border out of my own pocket and risk to my own life to find out the truth, and then we find out the truth, and then we know what to do about it. We know how to act, and we know how to hold people accountable. And that, above all, is the purpose of these assemblies, is so that we can do this effectively and in unison together based on facts. This is no joke. We're not going to just get together and say, oh, Johnny over there is doing this, that, and the other, and have a court case. And you know what I'm saying? This has got to be legitimate. It's got to be a court of record, and real evidence must be submitted to a jury. So I digress. I can wound up. Go ahead, Mike.
Problem with assemblies. One big problem with assemblies is once they get big enough, they begin to get infiltrated. Okay, Okay.
They can. But see, again, when we go back to our two witnesses and our qualified elector, if at any point in time those two witnesses decide, you know what, man, I used to support you and I would have qualified you a couple of years ago, but you're off the rails now. I'm sorry, I can't speak for you anymore. If you can't find two people to qualify you in your assembly, then you cannot be a part of that assembly. It's just the facts of the matter. And so,
once we get enough of the wrong people in our assemblies, then they start qualifying themselves. That's the problem.
Well, that can be a problem. That can be a problem, and it's an uphill battle. I'm not going to deny. But I do not think that is going to be as much of an issue as you might think. As long as we can have an open dialogue with one another and create different divisions. So the point of the assembly, there's three parts, okay, to a true assembled community. First, you have the body politic, which means a judiciary, and it means an enforcement, and it means an economic system, right? And so you have the three parts working together, and they all come together in what's known as a general assembly. And when you do that, you have enough people participating and you're holding up the economy. People tend to want to, Josh, I think the idea here is, and I may be a fool, but my recollection of the American people is that when you give them an opportunity to have things the right way, they want the right way. They're just lost right now and don't know what the right way is. Mm-hmm. So I think that issue might be present in the beginning, but I think it'll be a fleeting thing. And I think once people learn truly how to be self-governing, it'll become a thing of the past. And the most beautiful part of the assemblies is as a community, you have the right and the ability to create a code of conduct. And it even says that in the qualified elector form. What is the norm, right? We determine that. The community determines what our norm, our modus operandi is. So if you want to go over on your community and you want to do X, Y, and Z, but I want to do A, B, and C, well, I'm going to stay over here in A, B, and C community, and I'm going to do that. And this, again, comes back to the idea of property ownership. If we have this fluidity and this ability to move ourselves as necessary to be a part of a community that is like-minded and is self-governing, if we're in our jurisdiction appropriately and everything is working appropriately, we have the ability to move about as we please, and it becomes much easier and less of a burden. And so if we have to excommunicate somebody or we find somebody to be not of the community, for God's sake, make them leave. I mean, there's no reason to let them stay. You definitely have the power to do that. I yield.
All right, well, for the record, just so the people on this meeting know, and anybody that listens to this video, which hopefully many will, when the hand's raised here with the white lion, Michael, national, right from righteousarmy.org, my son is with me. So sometimes the hand's being raised for me, Michael. Sometimes I'm raising the hand for my son, Joshua. So that was my son's points being made. But then it brings up in my own mind here, while we're doing this spring cleaning and dusting,
Hey, Mike, before you continue on, can we give Joe an opportunity, because he's patiently had his hand up for quite a minute now. So can we?
Sure, go ahead. And then I want to just elaborate on the point you made, because it's an important point to be. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say, last month, I think if I introduce this to the people here in Rockingham County, last month I ran for North Carolina House of Representatives in the primary. I got 3,000 votes. So, and I'm here on the local Nextdoor app all the time, and people are searching for something to fix the problems that we're seeing right now, the broken system. Mm-hmm. So if I present this idea, the assembly, and not your way, but the right way of doing things, right. Which is I'm not saying, because you didn't just think of this, but you're crafting it together, formulating it by the lawful way of how we're supposed to be doing things and restoring our republic. Right. So if I present this, to the groups and the people, I think we can get a pretty large group of people together here in my county. The problem is like we talked about the size of the assembly. What happens when the assembly gets so big, and then we start having problems? The infighting.
Yeah. Well, so there's an easy solution for this, and our forefathers actually knew that this would happen. And the reason that they knew that it would happen is because it happened in the scriptures. And so there comes a point in a time when a tribe becomes so big that it has to branch off and be another tribe. And so because we're operating in a new jurisdiction that has been left abandoned and unpopulated and unfinished in its establishment, and we have to redistrict and reaccommodate for our actual population in our jurisdiction, these things can become a matter of just, so listen, we've got enough people now, and there's people that live in this area, and there's people that live in this area, so now we can divide into these two areas, and this is this assembly in this county in the de jure republic, and this is this assembly, this county in the de jure republic, and that's just the natural progression of growth, and that's something that I think we're going to face across the nation. And honestly, Joe, I think that this is going to be a very big problem because like you're articulating about your community, this is the case throughout the nation. There are 22 states, absolutely for sure, that are highly motivated in making very quick advancement. And now we have people such as Sheriff Mack that are open to listening to this process because it can be articulated and presented in a way that is in accordance with our foundation and the rule of law. And people at a higher level of politics are realizing by seeing the writing on the wall, just like the body of people are, they're looking for change too. They're looking for options. They're looking for suggestions. So I think that this growth issue is going to be something that will be an ongoing, occurring problem. And the solution for what Mike brought up and what you're actually, articulating as well, this infighting, this growth, we're just going to have to expand. We're going to have to branch out, and that's the beauty of it. And once we're able to really take our position of authority and power, that corporation can't tell us, oh, that national park over there, well, that's where we're going to have to go put this next community because that's our land, and it's right there in our way, and we can't go around it, we can't go through it, it's got to be. So now we're going to use eminent domain from the Republic. How about that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the people are not to be alienated. This is the thing we have to comprehend, too. The corporation is devised for a specific reason, and it's for that reason alone that it cannot be abolished or destroyed at this point. I'm not saying that it can't ever, but it has to be a very gradual, slow process because there are going to be those that are slow to come to the path of self-governance. There's those that are going to never come to the path of self-governance. And as stewards of God's creation, we have a responsibility and a duty to them, and that is what the corporations are for. That's what the state of states is for. Not the federal government, the state of states, the corporate state that we can have, because what we should be doing is readdressing. It's so interesting, the dichotomy here. Our main function when we come back together as a true body politic in the de jure republic is to readdress the issues that were brought up between the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers, because now we've had over 200 years of this feudal federal system that some of the forefathers wanted and almost half of the forefathers didn't. And I think that there was infiltration and bribery and weakness by some of the forefathers, and that's what enabled this feudal federal system to be implemented. And it was for the purpose of the fraud, the very fraud that we're experiencing today. And so I think the conversation at hand, once we're able to reassemble, should be all of these things, and including, most importantly, the federal system. And why couldn't we have just increase the strength and capacity of the Confederation of States? And now that we have both, and our system was designed to have both, and our forefathers kind of embraced the idea of both, well, okay, so now how do we make it work together? And we figure that out as a people, responsibly, and based on the terms of the here and now. So, okay, Mike.
Yeah, going back to Mike here, I mean, since you just said that, without going to my other point yet, I mean, that opens up the whole avenue of discussion that my son referenced earlier, that the people that are behind it all do need to be dealt with. And as we know, Daniel, who's on the line with us, could elaborate on that extremely well. Maybe he will. But what the spring cleaning thing I was talking about with regards to these assemblies that needs to be aired out as well is this issue again. It's my peeve that we've got, you know, these different groups out there that follow these different gurus, and ultimately we all need to come together. But it's been said that the so-called quote-unquote Anna von Rice movement that's been around quite a long time, they claim to have assemblies in every state already, right? And that they just need to be utilized and used. So please maybe put to rest this issue, maybe give a little clarity on the falsity of that or the problem with that or why that's not working, because there's certainly a lot of people that might even hear this, show on the internet that themselves are caught up in the Anna von Rights thinking that they got all the answers, but yet nothing's being done with them. So maybe spring clean a little bit on this, since we're talking about the significance and importance of the 30 people and the assemblies to take action to hold accountable these corporate officials that are acting as our government under color of law. What is that all about? This supposed Anna von Rights has already established the assemblies in every state issue.
Okay, well, so there's that actually is quite a loaded question. So just bear with me while I get through all this because it is very convoluted. So lots of people make claims. And that's fine. We can make whatever claims we want. We can be self-determining. We can be whatever we want. If we want to be a purple polka dotted monster flying around in the clouds, then that can be our reality. And it doesn't mean I have to believe it. Doesn't have to be. I have to be a part of it, though, does it? And so therein lies the problem. If they had assemblies that were lawfully assembled in every state, then why is it that we're still having the problems that we're having? And why is the rule of law not being enforced would be the first question I would ask when faced with this issue. The second would be, who is Anna von Rights? And so she proclaims to be the fiduciary of the unincorporated Federation of States. That's an agency and organization I am familiar with, but for this purpose, I'm going to say I'm not very familiar with. Okay, so can I find precedent for this anywhere in history? No. Is there precedent for this organization in law somewhere? Have they adjudicated cases as this Federation of States as an international body politic? No. Okay, so who is Anna von Rights? So then maybe I would attempt to do a background check on her. I might even just use something simple like instant checkmate, okay? And I think it's important for people to do these things. Listen, nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. God only knows. I'm not here because I chose to be here either. I'm not here because I feel like I have some superpower and I'm here to save the country and I'm not your leader and I don't claim to be your leader. I don't want to be your leader. In fact, I want to finish what God called me for and get my son and my daughter and go on a big, long family vacation for like months and months and months because I spend an extended period of time away from them. But I do know that Anna von Rights sits on a high castle in Alaska and writes a lot of stuff and tells people that she doesn't have money. But when you look into the finances there, it seems like maybe that's not necessarily the case because there's sure an awful lot of real estate owned around the country from Alaska to Texas, in fact. and seems like maybe I remember something about an executive officer of hers being involved in an FBI sting where his wife, who was an oil executive, oil baroness, comes from a lot of money, mysteriously died in a bush plane accident in Alaska. It's not a likely place to find a woman like that in my experience, but hey, who knows? Then there's the supposed blood oath to the Vatican, which she claims that she did away with, and I'm not sure, but I think blood oaths is really only one way to get rid of a blood oath, and that's blood. And she's still breathing, so I don't know that could have been a possibility either. So we just have to learn how to ask ourselves questions. I mean, really, it's what it boils down to is do we need a leader? I mean, look, man, in the past, I don't know, we'll just use the past, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, let's just look at the past 8 administrations. I mean, at what point do the American people wake up and realize that who they're voting for isn't really what they're getting, and why don't they realize that every time they elect someone to be in charge that there's an issue? And the problem is that we don't quite comprehend how to be in charge of ourselves, and so we always look for authority. So I see Anna von Reitz and David Straits and these other assemblies as people that present themselves as an authority, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but when they try to take on roles by appointment of themselves as fiduciary, that I have a problem with. Now, if there's an organization out there, like there's a couple, that have done the legwork and have made the notices and make them available publicly and show the evidence of their actual mailing and receipt and have adjudicated things in international courts and have standing in law that's evidenced, and are willing to surrender to the civilian authority because they realize they're only playing an interim role in a de jure government that hasn't been properly occupied since before the Civil War, on and on and on. Then maybe I might listen to what they had to say. Then maybe I might want to talk to them. And there are those organizations out there, and I do recognize them. And I think it's important for us all to recognize them. But I also think it's important for us to recognize these people in these assemblies because, listen, the path to freedom is not close to them, even though they've chosen the path that they have. There may be some corrections needed. There may be some education needed. But listen, most of these groups have been around for decades, and I don't see much change. In fact, I see people going to prison a lot. So I digress at that point, and I hope that gave a good enough explanation, Mike. If not, just let me know, buddy.
Yeah, no, it did. It's usual. I appreciate it. Which, it kind of brings it all back down to, I mean, here's 6 of us, 7, 8 of us here, right. That are discussing essentially the reality that we need 30 people who have gone through a process of making a declaration of status of self-governing, self-determination, and putting together assemblies. You asked the question, do we need a leader? We need thousands of leaders is what we need.
Exactly. Everyone that steps up to the plate needs to be a leader in their home. They need to be the head of their household. They need to be a capable person of managing their affairs. That's exactly right. Thousands upon thousands, millions of leaders, because that's the American way. That's just it. I mean, our nation was a nation that was created for liberty and justice for all, and we were meant to be a beacon of hope for the world, just like Christ was, which is exactly why George Washington consecrated this nation to God. I mean, that's exactly the reason for it. And therefore, it only stands to reason that if we don't fall into suit with that we're going to fail. And I mean, we could look at this from many perspectives, but I think on this platform, I think we should, I'm going to maintain a relatively neutral position in what I'm articulating right now, and I think most of you guys can comprehend why. Because I don't want to alienate anybody, because what our forefathers created, and it's evidenced in the way they wrote their documents. For example, the way they capitalize and don't capitalize certain things, like the little c in citizens. That's everyone. That is absolutely inclusive of everyone. It's when you put the capital C in there that you're talking about the state citizens. You see, and those are easily identifiable things in these documents, and they speak to giving an opportunity of freedom to everyone, because that's what they sought, and they thought every man was created equal and every man deserved that opportunity and ability. But here's the caveat to that, is you have to be able to adhere to our system. You have to be able to meld at least into our system of law and respect the golden rule and be able to operate accordingly. And that's why we have this naturalization process that used to work. In fact, there's documents from 1925, which they've taken away, that talks about the naturalization and immigration process, and it's quite clear why it is established that way it was, and it was so that men and women that came here seeking the opportunity were not part of the body politic technically at the de jure level. They were actually in the territorial government as naturalized citizens and still wards of the federal territorial